Probably do it on 2 minutes, a little bit. Okay, I think we're ready for the time. Okay, there we go. I think that's a little bit better, so we can all keep our hearing after tonight. Okay, so we are just after 7:04, so we will call this meeting to order. We did just finish a workshop, just an informational workshop about fund balance, to educate us a little bit more in regards to that. So we appreciate Bailey being here and presenting that for us, and also Mrs. Mitchell also to be a part of that. So we will begin this meeting with an invocation offered by Reverend Jim Porter of the Caldwell Free Methodist Church, after which, if you please stand for that and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the blessing and the privilege that it is to live in Caldwell. As we come together tonight, Father, we pray that we would deal with the issues at hand creatively, with wisdom. And Father, my mind this evening is focused on those that are going to be taking the oath of office and the oath of service. Father, protect their families, protect their homes as they protect us. We are so grateful for the legacy of service in this city. We thank you for sustaining it through good times and through bad. We look forward to what you're going to accomplish in the days ahead. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Mr. Porter. Appreciate that. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Aldridge.
Here.
Jody.
Here.
Dottie.
Here.
Register. Here. McGee.
Here. Very good. So Councilman McGee is joining us via Zoom, so appreciate him joining us in that regard. So good to have everybody here. So we have a near full council. Before the end of the night, we will have a complete full council, so we're excited for that. Are there any conflict of interest declarations from any of the council members? Very good. Seeing none. We do have a few special presentations tonight. So we'll begin first with a proclamation in regards to Black History Month. So I will read that proclamation into the record. And who is here on behalf of that, Mr. Matt? Okay, very good. So we'll have Mr. Matt give this to him after that. So, and we acknowledge Mr. Matt and thank him for bringing this to our attention so that we could do this evening. So it says, whereas during Black History Month, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to our economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development. And whereas Black History Month grew out of the establishment in 1926 of Negro History Week by Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And whereas the 2022 national theme for the observance is Black Health and Wellness, this theme acknowledges the legacy of not only Black scholars and medical practitioners in Western medicine, such as birth workers, doulas, midwives, naturopaths, herbalists, etc., throughout the African diaspora. And whereas the observance of Black History Month calls our attention to the continued need to battle racism and build a society that lives up to its democratic ideals. And whereas the city of Caldwell continues to work toward becoming an inclusive community in which all citizens, past, present, and future, are respected and recognized for the contributions and potential contributions to our community, the state, the country, and the world. And whereas the city of Caldwell is proud to honor the history and contributions of African Americans in our community throughout our state and nation. Now therefore, in recognition of African Americans, past and present, in our community, I, Jaron Wagner, Mayor of the City of Caldwell, Idaho, do hereby proclaim February 2022 as Black History Month. In the City of Caldwell, we encourage all citizens to celebrate our diverse heritage and culture and continue our efforts to create a world that is more just, peaceful, and prosperous for all. So with that, Mr. Malbon, if you want to make a few comments, you're welcome to, in regards to that.
Mr. Mayor and Council, not many comments. Charles Taylor has been the president of NAACP in this region for about 10 years. He could not be here this evening. Asked me if I would take that for him.
Thank you. If you'll please come forward. Okay, and thank you again for bringing that to our attention. We appreciate that. Our next item on the special presentations is our Rhodes Scholar Award. Paul Alsup, I hope I said that right, and Kevin Northrup from the Local Highway Technical Assistance Council. So please come forward. And Dan Coots is going to present it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, bud.
Hi, Dan Koontz with Local Highway Technical Assistance Council. I'm the new T2 director, a few different hats that I wear, and so I just wanted to come tonight to make a presentation here with and celebrate your staff in getting the Road Scholar, Road Master, and just real quick, just so you guys know that as we have classes, we intend for most of our classes to have a passing grade of 80%. So that way that you guys, when your staff is with us and getting trained, they are there and getting good information so they can bring back to the city. And in the hopes that they also extend the life of all of the assets that you guys have. So just wanted to make that known, because I know you guys have you have a kind of a full house. So without further ado, I would like to have Alsup.
Here, he's hiding out in the back. He's coming up.
The next person that is receiving the Road Scholar is Kevin Northrup.
Where's Kevin now?
He could not attend tonight.
He could not be here.
Do you mind if I give this to one of your staff? Make sure that they get that, so appreciate that.
The next person is August Medlin.
I saw that amazing beard from in the back there, so I know he's here.
Okay, awesome. I love that. So we always like to give the road masters a little bit more of a swag. So this is the T2 jacket that everyone gets. So congratulations.
I'd just like to say thank you to the T2 Center and LTAC for all the support, city, mayor, Trent, everybody for allowing us to do this training and for all the good.
So I just want to say thank you very much for, that you guys allow staff to get trained. I think with all assets, your best asset is your staff, right? So in training them to extend your life of all of your other assets that you have to manage, so, really appreciate your support.
Very good. Yes, thank you so much for coming, and yes, I think we echo that sentiment as well, that, we are grateful to be able to train them, and we're grateful that they go through the training, so just wanted to thank again August and Paul and Kevin for being willing to do that, to continue to educate yourselves, and to make yourselves better, because that makes us all better. So keep up the great work you're doing over there, we appreciate it very much, so thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, and so for our final special presentation tonight, we are going to be doing a swearing-in oath of office for some of our new police officers. So we're grateful for the opportunity to do this here tonight. This is, my understanding, the first time we've done this at a city council meeting, and I think it's fantastic. It gives a chance for the city council to be able to see this, be a part of it, as well as the public, and to bring your families and friends out to witness this as well. So I'm excited to continue this into the future, as long as I don't mess it up too bad. But I think I practiced the names on that. So but just a huge thank you to our entire police department. We have a lot of police officers here, and just so grateful for their service, their dedication to our community, to each and every one of us that's in this room tonight. Oh, a big debt of gratitude to these gentlemen and ladies that are here representing our great police department. So with that, kind of the plan will probably be to have you come forward. I think we're going to do all the swearing-ins at once, and then we'll do the individual badging and have whoever you're badging, we'll have you introduce them and any family and friend that are with you. I think for photo ops, it's probably best to line up maybe over here in front of them, and so we can get the flag in the background. Does that sound like a good idea, Debbie? Okay, so we have officers Christopher Ong, Andrew Thomas, Timothy Fector, Taylor O'Neill, Tomas Chavez, Alex Gagan, and Jordan Stevenson. I think I might have got those all right, so let's see if I can do it again.
So we'll do the swearing in together, and then we'll have this new badge. I'm going to take time to introduce yourself, person that's seeing the badge, and your friend. So I will read this, if you'll raise your right hand, and then place your name in at the beginning. So I, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Idaho and the laws and ordinances of the city of Caldwell, that I will to the best of my ability faithfully perform the duties of patrol officer in the city of Caldwell, Canyon County, Idaho, so help me God. Jordan Stevenson, introduce yourself, and then who is Penny, you can come forward, and then any family for you.
I'm Jordan Stevenson. My beautiful wife Jaden is going to be pinning my badge on.
Any other family?
Yeah, and I just want to thank my parents for coming, my grandparents, my sister, one back there, one up here. Yeah, you guys can stand up. My in-laws, all over the place. There she is. My grandparents, aunt and uncle back there. Yeah, everybody's there. I think that's it. If I forgot to, I'm so sorry.
Tomas Chavez.
got Tomas Chavez. I'll be having my fiance, Kelsey Jansen, in my badge. The audience, I have my mom, my 2 daughters, Deja and Ava, Deja's aunt, Katrina. Thank you guys for being here.
We hope getting on is more people than the pepper sprayer. Jordan, what do you think about that?
It was not nearly as bad as those.
Taylor O'Neill.
Hello, I'm Taylor O'Neill. I'll be having my mother Ann in my badge. Thank you to my family. I've also got my dad, my brother, my grandmother, and my 2 buddies here to support me, so thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Tim Spencer.
Hello, I'm Tim Spector. I'm gonna have my perfect wife pin the badge for me. And, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and my niece are here, so thank you guys for coming.
And I was just informed that they also just got married today. He's a smart man, so. Alex Gagan.
Hello, I'm Alex Gagan. I'll have my wife, Sarah, be pinning, doing the pinning today. I also have my, 4 kids here, Kai, Penny, Troy, and Aurora, as well as my, in-laws, Shane, Cheryl, Marshall.
Do it the Marine way.
wrong. I'm gonna have my wife, my best friend Sarah, in my badge on today, also in the audience, and my daughter Scarlett, my daughter Violet, my parents, my brother Andrew, and my aunt.
And Andrew Thomas.
I'm Andrew Thomas, and I'll have my wife in my badge, and thanks to everyone who's here, is here for me. I have a lot of family here, and a special thank you to everyone who keeps changing their schedule to watch my daughter like FBO training. I know she's been stressing out about this because she's the last one to do it.
Sorry about that. And don't forget to sign your oath. I think somebody was gonna grab you to do that, if you wanna make sure it's official. So Amber will have that for you, so make sure you do that in the back. And thank you for doing that, and thank you to City Council allowing us to do that tonight. I think that's a great thing, well worth the time that it takes to do that. And wanna thank also all the family that is here and friends for support for these great officers. So go put them to work, Mr. Riley.
They're starting to breathe on that.
Very good. Sounds good. Very awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. So that concludes our special presentations. Those family members, friends that are here that don't want to be bored for the rest of the night, you're welcome to get up and leave at this time, and we will not be offended whatsoever.
I know, I mean, but I don't know.
I don't know if you can use it.
Okay, do we have, any audience participation on an item that is not on the agenda this evening? Yes, come on forward, Tammy, if you don't mind stating your name, and then the mic is yours. You have a tag team, and your husband 1 month, and then you're the next month.
He asked me if I would finish it.
Very good.
My name is Tammy Dittenborough, I live at 2220 Arlington Avenue in Caldwell. I'm 63 and a half years old, and for all of those years, I've lived in a 25-mile radius. Yep. For 55 years, I've lived in a 6-mile radius, and for 35 years, I've lived in a 3-mile radius. I was raised and educated and worked in Caldwell for over 30 years. I lived in Caldwell, and it was a bustling city supported by 3 department stores, 3 full furniture stores, and 8 full-service grocery stores, with bakeries and meat counters. 12 years ago, in a town just north of here, a 15-year-old boy was hit and killed in a crosswalk on Highway 44. While organizing meals to take to his family, I met 4 women who shared my concern that there was no pedestrian light at the crossing in front of the high school. We joined forces, we went to a city council meeting, and we asked what needed to happen to get a pedestrian light installed. And they told us that as citizens, we had a better chance of getting a light placed. And they had no idea what would follow. We talked to state, county, private planners, engineers. We attended every city meeting and noticed that the city engineer sat at the dais and participated in discussions that had nothing to do with engineering. And he had a nameplate. So we started filing public records requests for hundreds of pages of documents. We found the city had no contract with the engineer, no fees, and no deliverables were on record. All engineering fees were embedded in project costs that had totaled over $2 million the year prior. Others got wind of what we were doing and told us what some other issues were with a $15.8 million proposed sewer plant upgrade and with the high school construction. There is a lot to this, but we attended every single city council meeting for 18 months. We drafted thorough staff reports after months, and we stood at public comment, and we read 3 minutes at a time for 25 and 30 minutes, bringing in different people to read for those 3 minutes. Ultimately, we unseated a longtime mayor and 3 council members. A peer review of the treatment plant project was ordered, and it saved taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the engineer was fired. All this is to say, I know how to watchdog like a boss. I know what to look for, and I know how to get in people's business and figure out what's happening. I have never felt like that in Caldwell. I have never seen things that made my spidey senses tingle, and in fact, I credit the mayor and city council, some here now, some here past, and staff, some here now, some here past, for bringing Caldwell like the phoenix from the ashes, and I'm so grateful for that. And it is, in fact, why my husband and I came back. I have a lot of opinions, but I am careful to extricate my ideologies and my opinions from public process. I am not last year's growth here to mule about next year's growth. I see people stand who do not know how the process works. They would be better served to come and listen, then go to the experts in the field and get facts and understand the process. Then remember that the greater good and the general welfare are at stake. I'm not interested in becoming a hotch-hotch watcher, and for anyone who understands Dr. Seuss, you know what a hotch-hotch watcher is. But I can be that. I know how. Please know, we know what the issues are, and we know you know what the issues are, and we just want you to fix them and not take Caldwell backwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here this evening. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and talk about an item that is not on the agenda this evening? Okay, very good. So we will move on to the consent calendar at this time. We do have some amendments to that calendar. I believe Council President Allgood. Yes.
We need to correct item 3 on the consent calendar. River Bluff subdivision does not require a development agreement. The item should now read, approve order of decision for case number
SUB 21000028 River Bluff subdivision. There is a second correction, which is the removal of item number 4 on the consent calendar. It has been requested by staff that this item be removed due to lack of signatures on the development agreement from the applicant for the Sotera subdivision.
Very good. So we have a motion to approve the consent calendar as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Council President Allgood, second by Councilor Doty, to approve the consent calendar as amended. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Allgood,
Yes.
Register, McGee,
Yes.
Doty,
Yes.
Dot.
Yes. Motion passes with 5 in favor and none opposed, and I remembered to not do, all together. Debbie, so I'm actually getting, maybe I'm learning a little bit here. Okay, so that moves us on, to old business, and the first item of old business, we're not calling you old, Mr. Williams, but you are under old business, is the official oath of office for city council appointment to seat number 4, Jeff Williams. So just a quick overview on this. Come on forward, Mr. Williams. So we were able to have a special city council meeting this past week, and there was a unanimous decision to appoint Jeff Williams to seat number 4, on the Caldwell City Council. So we're grateful for his willingness to serve, and just kind of echo the sentiments we shared that day, when we were able to meet to vote on that. And, you know, grateful for the city council and, you know, the vetting that they did and everything in that regard. So we're excited to have you up here and sitting next to me. So without any further ado, we will do that swearing in at this time.
You'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jeff Williams,
I, Jeff Williams,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Idaho,
the Constitution of the State of Idaho,
and the laws and ordinances
and the laws and ordinances
of the City of Caldwell,
of the City of Caldwell,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of council member, seat number 4,
the duties of council member, seat number 4,
of the City of Caldwell,
of the City of Caldwell,
Canyon County,
Canyon County,
Idaho,
Idaho,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
during my continuance therein.
during my continuance therein.
You're official.
I don't know, I think you should have to give a speech or something.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of speeches to come, so, but, yes, thankful to have, Mr. Williams on here with us to be able to serve. And the great thing is that now we have 2 fluent speakers in Spanish. So Mr. Williams, like myself, also speaks Spanish, which I think is fantastic, so for our great community. Yes? Oh, very good, yes, so I apologize. So if you would take a few minutes, there, Council Member Williams, and introduce your wife that is here. And we can definitely get a picture too, if you want to bring her up and do that.
My wife of 31 years who has put up with me and continues to, Beth is here. My daughter Aubrey and her husband Frisco are here. My daughter Miranda and her boyfriend Luke are here. And my mom Jenny and stepdad Gary are both here.
Very good, excellent, well, thanks for being here. Just if you don't mind all coming forward, and now that you're up, we're gonna kick you off, if you don't mind going back down and get a picture with the family, I think would be fantastic. Only if you want to, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't.
Now we're good.
Yeah, now we're good, thank you very much, Council President. And the question is, are they gonna stick around and suffer through the next 3 hours with you, or they, 7:50 go home, very good, that's good, so. we'll try to get them home to you before too late tonight, so. Okay, very good. Well, congratulations again, Mr. Williams, and we are excited to have you on board. So, we will jump into new business. So our first action item of new business is a presentation and consider acceptance of the fiscal year 2021 City of Caldwell audit. Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I just want to take a few seconds, and then Councilman Doty will say a few words and introduce the auditor for tonight's presentation. I just want to say thank you to my team. They have put in a lot of time, hard work, and a lot of hours to get us to this point. And I want to specifically recognize Rochelle Casaberry. She is my deputy treasurer. She's here in the audience tonight. Many hours we have put into getting to this point and getting this audit put together for you. I also have a recognition for Kim Hagan. She is our AP specialist. Tricia Hibler, who is our payroll specialist. Carrie Foster, who is our CDBG specialist, and she was helping with training and transition during this audit. So I just want to take a few minutes to really say thank you to my team. I'm very blessed to have the staff that I have in place. They are a good working, hard-working team with good work ethics. So with that, Mr. Doty?
Sure. So Chuck and I had the honor of meeting Jody Doherty from Hyde Bailey. She gave us a presentation in regards to the, the city's audit, and it seems to have passed with flying colors. So we're thankful for our appointed officials and our staff and their hard work for that as well. And so I'll turn it over to you to
All right, thank you. So like Councilmember Doty said, we did meet and with the Audit Committee, and there's some community members on that committee as well, and so we went into a lot more depth and detail and had a really good discussion about the financial statements at that meeting. So I won't go into a lot of detail on the financials themselves unless someone has a specific question from the review of those financial statements. I do want to point out that these financial statements that you have were prepared by Carol and Rochelle. As I Bailey, the auditor, we did not prepare them at all, which is huge because that allows us to have an independent view of the financial statements and come in and actually audit them instead of trying to also prepare the financial statements, which sometimes we are asked to do. So Rochelle and Carol prepare these financial statements, and I'm going to talk now about the pieces that I Bailey owns, which is just a few reports that are in these financial statements. So the very first report that's in here that is I Bailey's is our auditor's report. And in this report, we give our opinion on the financial statements, and like every year past, our opinion is that these financial statements present fairly the financial position of the city at September 30th, 2021. In the report, we also bring to your attention that there is some required supplementary information that the standard setter GASB requires to be in this financial statement. It's in there, we look at it, we read it, we review it, but we do not give an opinion on it. So it's just making you aware that this information's in there, but no opinions given. We also make you aware that as part of our audit, we do look at controls over financial reporting, and it's just integrated into our audit, so it's just making you aware that that is also part of our audit. The supplementary information that's in there is the detail, the combining information. So in the front of the financials, all of your funds are lumped into one column called Other, Aggregate Remaining. The back will show you the detail of every single fund. So if you're interested in the cemetery fund, for example, it's in there in the back. So we do, again, as part of our audit opinion, we look at all of them together, consolidated, and give an opinion on them as an aggregate. The other reports that belong to I-Bailey are at the back of the financial statements. One of them is our report on the internal control over financial reporting that we observe as we are doing our audit. If we had a finding related to the internal controls over financial reporting, this is the letter where we would let you know what that was. we did not have any findings as part of our review of the internal controls. The letter does point out that this is not an opinion on the effectiveness of the internal controls, it's just integrated into our audit, and if anything has come to our attention, we would let you know. The third letter that's in here that belongs ideally is our audit of your federal awards. So you do get money from the federal government, and we come in and we audit that, those awards. There's certain parameters over which one we audit every year, and so we go in and we audit compliance with that agency's requirements over that audit. And in this letter, if we had any findings over compliance or internal control over compliance, then we would let you know what those findings were. We did not have any findings related to our audit of that federal award. So attached to that letter, those two letters at the back, is the schedule of findings and question costs. And again, we had no findings related to internal control over financial reporting or over compliance with your federal programs. Any questions on our opinion or those letters or the financial statements that may have come up while you were reviewing?
Any questions from any council members? No, I don't see any. Take it easy.
Real quick, the one other letter that's gonna come out that's, directed to the city council directly is our communication with those charged with governance. And this gives us the opportunity to just make you aware, hey, within your financial statement is a significant estimate related to, your share of the unfunded liability at Percy, which this year happened to be an asset. They did really well this year, so there's actually a really tiny asset sitting on your financial statements related to your share of, Percy. And we would also let you know in this letter if there was any significant change in accounting policies, if there were any, issues noted during the audit or anything significant that we thought we should bring to your attention would be in this letter. The one thing we brought to your attention is that there was an adjustment that we noticed that management decided not to post because it wasn't material enough. Did relate to that Percy liability that swung to an asset. So the way it was being allocated across the funds looked funny because some of the enterprise funds still had a liability and we should have had net pension asset instead. So we worked with Carol to come up with a different way to allocate it so that we won't have this problem going forward, but it was not material enough to actually post an entry and change the financial statement. So that is noted in this letter as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions at all? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the fiscal year 2021 City of Caldwell audit? Good, very good. Do I have a second? Second. So we have a motion by Councilor Doty and a second by Council President Allgood. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Doty,
Yes.
Register,
Yes.
Dottie,
Yes.
Allgood,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes. Got one.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. See, I'm not the only one that messes up from time to time. That makes me feel better, so that's good. Really good. So that'll move us on. So motion passes with 6 in favor, no against. That moves us on to action item number 2, presentation and consider acceptance of the fiscal year 2021 Health Trust audit.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I just want to also make a note for you guys. In your package, you have all of these financial statements that we're talking about tonight electronically, as well as hard copies that you have at your chairs tonight. Some choose to keep the reports both electronically and hard copies. Some have chosen to return them back to us. So the choice is yours if you wish to keep the hard copies or not. So tonight is our Health Trust audit being presented to you. The Health Trust audit has been presented to the trustees back in January, and the trustees of the Health Trust have accepted the financial statements of the Health Trust. I'm just going to highlight and point out a couple things, and then we'll move on for a motion to accept these financial statements. On page 3 of the Health Trust audit, bullet point number 2, just want to identify that planned contributions from all sources totaled $3,832,469. Planned deductions totaled $3,925,768, for a net fiduciary net position of $63,602. The surplus that exists, this is in bullet point number 3, about 3/4 of the way down, still on page 3, surplus and reserves within the plan is $2,251,628. Going to page 7, page 7 shows the assets, which is all in cash of the plan, of $2,633,846. Liabilities for the plan at year end was $78,536 in claims, and our health claims incurred but not paid. This comes from the actuarial service of $303,682, leaving a fiduciary net position, as I mentioned earlier, of $2,251,628. With that, I will stand for questions for the Health Trust.
Any questions from any council members?
Mr. Mayor.
Council President Olga.
So just for the audience's benefit, just so everybody knows what we're talking about, would you just briefly, we're self-insured, and this is the money that we pay our medical bills with?
Correct. So yes, the City of Caldwell plan is a self-funded health plan, and it is managed by trustees. This is not a managed plan by City Council or Mayor. So Department of Insurance requires us to have an annual audit, as well as to have trustees to manage that plan. The receipts that come into the plan are from contributions from employees, as well as employers. And then the expenses tied to the plan are for any health claims that our covered people incur during the plan year.
Thank you.
Any other questions from any council members? Very good. With that, do we have a motion to accept the fiscal year 2021 Health Trust audit?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Very good. So we have a motion by Council President Allgood, second by Councilor Register to approve, or to accept the fiscal year 2021 Health Trust audit. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Allgood,
Yes.
Register, Williams,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Sonic,
Yes.
Stone.
Yes.
Very good. Motion passes. Moves us on to new business number 3, action item, presentation and consider acceptance of the fiscal year 2021 Caldwell Urban Renewal Audit. Are you doing that one as well, Ms. Mitchell?
I am.
Very
Yes.
good.
Thank you, Mayor. Council tonight has before you the Caldwell Urban Renewal Audit Report. This report has no findings in it as well. So we're just going to hit a few highlights on the Urban Renewal Report, page 3. Under financial highlights, bullet point number 2. The agency's general fund reported ending fund balance of $13,494,791. Of this amount, $9,499,000 is restricted for urban renewal projects. We have a small amount of $3,973 that is non-expendable. That's in the form of a note receivable. And then we have long-term notes restricted of $3,991,818. These are restricted by our bond covenants. The agency's total debt obligation at the end of September, this is the third bullet point here under financial highlights, is $5,959,506. We have 3 bonds that will pay off in September of this year. So those bonds will be due on September 1st, and we will pay off 3 bonds. Turning to page 10 of the report, we have assets, total $26,419,807. We have liabilities totaling $1,571,796. We have deferred inflows of resources, which is tied up in property tax revenues. So these are revenue projections coming from the county that we will collect through the year, of $11,353,220. We have net position, fund balance, of $13,494,791. And with that, I believe on page 24 shows your bond covenants for the urban renewal. agency, and it shows the dollar amounts that's left, remaining, as well as, the payments that we have made through the year. With that, I will stand for questions.
Very good. Any questions from any council member? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion for the acceptance of the fiscal year 2021 Caldwell Urban Renewal Audit?
So moved, yes, Mayor.
We have a motion, and I think, does that count as a second? Okay. So we have a motion from Council President Alvin, and then a second from Councilor Doty to accept the fiscal year 2021 Caldwell Urban Renewal Audit. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alvin,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Register, yes, Dottie,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Jody.
Yes.
Very good, motion passes unanimously. That moves us on to action item number 4. Consider acceptance of the calendar year 2021 annual activities report for the Caldwell Urban Renewal Agency and set the public hearing date for March 14th, 2022 at the regularly scheduled Urban Renewal Agency meeting at 7 p.m. Is this you also?
Yes, it is.
Very good.
Thank you, Mayor. I like it when it's all about me. Tonight you have before you, council and mayor, to, set a public meeting for the Caldwell Urban Renewal, calendar year report for March 14th, 2022. Now, by state code, Urban Renewal is required to provide you a calendar year report rather than a fiscal year report. So it's different from the audit that we just accepted. So this is for calendar year 21. So that's from January through December. It's, so the financial statements you have before you might sound a little repetitive because some of the ending numbers haven't changed. On your balance sheet, you have total assets of $25,153,322. Total liabilities of $6,045,643. Our deferred inflow of property taxes are $10,996,515. Assets plus your liabilities equals your fund balance net equity of $8,111,164 for total assets tied to your liabilities and equity of $25,153,322. That's the balance sheet. The next statement that you have before you is a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Again, this is as of December 31st, 2021. So as of your calendar year, total expenditures to Urban Renewal were $13,631,626. Total revenues, $9,926,305. For a net deficiency or excess expenditures over your revenues of $3,705,321. Then we had some proceeds from a land sale of $712,869, which makes your net change in fund balance as of December 31st of $2,922,452. Netting that against the beginning fund balance of your calendar year of $14,793,576 leaves fund balance for the end of the year at December of $11,801,124. With that, I'll stand for questions on the financial statements before I present the activities.
Any questions at this time? Okay, I don't see any, so go right ahead.
Wow, you guys were quicker, I didn't have time to swallow. Okay, so we also have to do a presentation of activities for the year that Urban Renewal was engaged in. So you have here page and a half of activities that Urban Renewal. I'm not going to go through every bullet point. I want to be sensitive to everyone's time here tonight. So we're just going to hit a couple highlights here. Under bullet point number 2, the agency underwent a request for a proposal for 1.21 acres in downtown Caldwell for future development. The agency has established a development agreement with a regionally based development group. I'm going to butcher this name. I think it's Chase Mixus? Whatever they said. It is an anticipated multi-use development at the site that will blend commercial, retail, and residential in phase one and a hotel in phase two. In December of '21, a groundbreaking was held and construction efforts will launch in the first quarter of 2022. Another item is, let's go down to bullet point number 4. The agency worked closely with several developers in growing the commercial and industrial base within the urban renewal district. Developer Ball Ventures Alquist purchased 114 acres at the corner of Highway 2026 and Smead Parkway. URA assisted in providing funding for needed infrastructure to the site. Vision for the site is a mix of commercial, retail, and light industrial. Construction has commenced for a small industrial building in the area and a subsequent groundbreaking for a 304,000 square foot industrial speculation building where we broke ground in December of '21. I can go on if you would like to hear more from me, or you're welcome to read these bullet points, but this is the activities report for calendar year 2021, and with that, I will stand for questions.
Any questions from any council members? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to accept, I was jumping backwards. So we have a motion to accept calendar year 2021 annual activities report for the Caldwell Urban Renewal Agency and set a public hearing date for March 14th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the regularly scheduled meeting. So we have a second? Again, so we have a motion by Councilor Doty and a second by Councilor Williams to approve this request, or accept this request, and then set that meeting date of March 14th, 2022, 7 p.m. in these chambers. Can we just do a voice vote on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, Carol. And Rochelle, thank you for being here as well. So Rochelle is one of the team members in there. So grateful to have you here hanging out with us tonight. Don't be a stranger. Come back sometime. Yeah. She's like, yeah, right. Like, that's going to happen. Okay, so this moves us on to action item number 5, and I imagine the handsome gentlemen in the back are excited for us to finally get to this item. So Chief Johnson, yes, if you'll please come forward. So this is an action item to consider approval of resolution authorizing the execution of a letter of intent to purchase a Pierce Ascendant aerial platform from Douglas County Fire District 2, Wenatchee, Washington, in the amount of $1.2 million for use by the Caldwell Fire Department. What is one fire department's loss is another fire department's gain. So we're excited for this. So if you, yes, Chief Johnson, if you could make that presentation.
All right, this will be short and sweet. Most people accuse me of being a person of very few words, so if you have questions, feel free to ask. So, the primary thing that we're aiming to do is, replace our 1991 E1 fire. It's a straight set, doesn't have a basket, it has a pre-plumbed waterway, so it's designed for elevated master stream use, and it's a rear mount, so the base of the ladder is tied into the back of the truck. It's served us well since we've had it. I was thumbing through it. A bunch of old pictures. I've got tons and tons of pictures on it on big fires. But they're all two-story buildings. If you look at how Caldwell has grown in the last 30 years or since we've gotten that truck was actually designed around a model of development that we're no longer in anymore. And so we're actually looking for something that meets our needs a little bit better. It's got 13,938 hours on it for maintenance tracking. If you multiply that times 35, you get a rough idea of how many miles are actually on that truck, okay? So understanding that most of the job of that truck is sitting still at a fire and either pumping or running a ladder and running aerial stream stuff. We don't have to drive it really far to get it to do its job, but when it goes on the fire, they're usually fires that last a long time. So your equivalent mileage on that comes out to be about 487,000 miles, if you do the math. We currently have it right, over at Station 1. The 75-foot on the ladder actually makes it a little bit of a challenge for us today with the new stuff that's being built. We've got 3- and 4-story buildings, and there's a little bit of a setback. And so we're looking at getting something a little bit, with a little bit more reach so that we can access those taller buildings. The other big challenge that we have with it is it's an aluminum ladder. It was built with a 400-pound tip load rating. And you have to remember that the primary purpose of that big ladder on that truck is as a rescue device, okay? You take I'm not a really big person, but by the time I get all suited up in my bulletproof fireman gear, I weigh about 250 pounds. You send somebody scurrying up that ladder to rescue somebody out of a ladder or out of a window, and you're gonna exceed the 400 pounds pretty quickly, okay? So those are the limitations and kind of why we're looking at getting it replaced. The apparatus that we are looking at, so this was scheduled to be replaced in fiscal year 2024. So, the chief assembled a committee, said, figure out what we need, what type of an apparatus do we need to meet our needs for now and in the future, because this is kind of a big purchase. This thing's gotta last for a long time. So when we started looking at the stuff that would meet our needs, we also started talking to the people who build those. All of the people who build those ladders are 24 to 26 months out from the time that you make your order. So that meant we would have to get it spec'd out and get it bought now. With inflation being the way it's being, the price of raw materials, the prices have skyrocketed pretty incredibly. We're figuring that, and we put together the replacement plan, that the replacement for that piece of equipment was gonna be about $1.4 million when it came to maturity. We undershot that just a little bit with what inflation has done to us, okay? This truck was originally purchased by Douglas County Fire District number 2 in East Wenatchee. They took delivery of it in January of 2021. It's got a gross vehicle weight rating of 76,000 pounds, which caused a little bit of a problem for them. They have a whole bunch of bridges in their area, and that apparatus winds up being overweight for a large chunk of the bridges that they have. They recently merged, or they're actually currently merging with the West Wenatchee Fire District, and the river separates them. It's got 4 significant bridges. That truck can't cross any of the bridges. They put in a request to state police, or not state police, DOT, for an overweight permit so that they could travel, use that truck across the bridges, and the state of Washington denied that permit. So basically, they have a truck that's sitting in the station that can move about a 3-mile circle around that station, and that's about it, okay? Without them being able to take it over the bridges, they haven't been able to take it on a fire. They can't really use it throughout most of their district, let alone the district that they're in the process of merging with, okay? They bought 3 pieces of equipment at the same time, and so they got some significant discounts when they bought that. The tower cost them $1.33 million after they got all of the discounts. It's got about 6,000 miles on it. 1,900 miles of those were what they used to drive it from Appleton, Wisconsin to where they're at. They've never had it on any fires, and it doesn't look like they've really driven it. So we took 4 people from our truck committee up and inspected the truck, and found out that it was for sale and it looked like it would possibly meet our needs. And it's literally a brand new truck. It's in outstanding condition. So the maintenance costs for our truck have been increasing. The ladder doesn't meet our needs for the current building that's taking place. And that's not to say that it's a piece of junk or that it's not a usable truck. It's just, it's reached its point where it's not meeting our needs. Because it was scheduled for replacement in 2024, and the cost estimate that we came up with, that was based on like 2018 numbers. So there's been quite a bit of fluctuation in inflation and everything since that plan came up with. We found out this apparatus does meet our needs. It will require a little bit of extra equipment that we don't currently have on the truck that we have to get it up into service, but in the grand scheme of things, it's gonna take very little stuff. It's easier to drive, it's much easier to operate. Instead of having a 400-pound tip load, it's got 1,000 pounds in the basket. We can load up, we can put 2 or 3 people in the basket, take them down, place them down safely, and we don't have to worry about them walking that forward trying to get them down the ladder. they were asking, $1.23 million. Chief Donahue spent an extensive amount of time talking with their acting chief up there, and he found out that their bottom line price on that piece of equipment was gonna be $1.2 million. So, some of the things that, we found out once we started talking with them was in talking with, particularly Pierce, the people who built this truck. We were like, what would it cost us if we were to order one of these and buy one? And so, they ordered theirs in 2019, they got it delivered, it was $1.33 million. We took the delivery in 2020, after their 4% increase, it would have been $1.384. And then February 1st of 2021, it took it to 1.4. And the prices keep going up. If we had taken delivery of that aerial today, if we had ordered it 2 years ago and taken delivery of it today, our out-of-pocket expense for that is gonna be about $1.563 million, okay? If we ordered it today and we took delivery of it in 26 months, like they're talking it's gonna take to get it here, the contract price is gonna be about almost $1.8 million. So, the price that they're asking for it, it gets us the truck 26 months quicker than what we would, and it saves us, about $500,000, a little over $500,000. $530,000. So the additional equipment, the lettering, camera system, the headset, our radios, and everything to put it into service, and that's after taking the equipment that we have on the current truck and putting on there. Chief Donahue came up with an estimate of about $60,000 that we would need for them. Excuse me. One of the big things that we're gonna wind up having to do is do a substantial amount of training. This isn't the same type of equipment that we have. The piece of equipment that we have is a straight stick, it's a ladder, you put it up to the window, and you get people up or down, and then you don't move it with anybody on it, so everybody has to get off of it, and move to the next one, and then people can climb in. This is a platform that if people actually have the ability to get into it, fly it where you need to do your job, back into it, fly it back down. You can do multiple rescues on it. I spent a number of years operating on a piece of equipment very similar to this at a former fire department that I worked on, and we had two trucks. We had one that had a straight stick and was a tower, and we had our tower. And we could rescue people about 6 times faster than they could because of the mobility of that platform. So training the staff to safely use it, it won't be a quick thing. The fortunate thing is we have some very motivated, very smart people, so it's not gonna be rocket science to get people brought up to speed on that, but you want people to be good at running an expensive piece of equipment like that, especially in extra situations, so it will require some extensive training. To get everybody up to speed on where we need to get it, probably take us about a year to get everybody on the equipment, trained on that. Probably a smaller group of people that would indicate who's staffing it, we can probably do that a little bit quicker. We'll have to get some people trained, and then bring them back, our training division consists of one person. So, and the recruit captains and everything else that we've got going on, it will be a resource management group with that training. So there'll be a little bit of overtime for the instructors to train people, and then we're gonna have to work with the local, or the bargaining unit, and try to come up with a plan together to figure out how to do it. Purchasing the apparatus kind of means that we're committed to staffing, which is going to be good for the citizens of Caldwell. If you look at most of the pictures of the new cars that we've had in the last couple of years, you always see a camper truck or a camper truck or a sometimes all of the trucks. Just simply because the cars that we're getting are a little bit more complicated and they require that type of service. And so we have about reached that point where having the truck stay in the station not staff, we're pretty much beyond that. fire chief here soon, he may have some different ideas on that, but that's kind of the plan we've come up with at this point. At the staffing level that we have right now, we won't currently have enough people to staff the truck and maintain the service on all of the two companies that we have, so we're gonna wind up having to be somewhat creative, even after, the upcoming academy that we get teed up starting in March. Once those guys are going, we're still gonna be short with the department staff for that. And so, we're probably gonna wind up looking at changing the deployment model and how we staff the entire city to make sure that we're appropriately covered for the more complex entities. It's a piece of equipment that's gonna be expensive, or specialized, we'll be a little bit more selective on the calls that piece of equipment goes on versus what we send our engines on. It doesn't carry a lot of water, so it's probably not going to be traveling out in the hydro-dip areas very often. It does have a pump sufficient to be able to deliver 2,000 gallons a minute if we're in the city and the hydro system. But the staffing will be the determinant capabilities with that. So that will not be a short-term thing. So that's what pictures for it.
Testing 1, 2.
Couple pictures for you. When we went out and looked at it, we actually put the stick out and so this ladder has the ability to actually go below grade, so we can use it in other rescue situations where our ladder isn't currently capable of doing it, but, that's the overall picture. I'll stand for questions if you have any.
Very good, thank you so much. Questions from council?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Sonic?
I guess the biggest drawback of this, again, is, I guess, like the old ladder truck, we don't have personnel now to man it, so how are you gonna get creative in that? Spending, $1.2 million and not having enough people to man it?
So there are some options there. My guess is we're gonna wind up getting creative and having, some people manning multiple pieces of equipment when a call comes in for and it's not entirely different from what we do right now. So we have a water tender and a brush truck and an engine and the ladder truck sitting at Station 1 right now. And we don't have any other water tenders or any other brush trucks. And so when we get a wildland fire, the guys get out in the engine, they get on the brush truck, and they go to the wildland fire on that truck. And the engine winds up getting covered. And my guess is, at least for the beginning, we will be doing creative things like that. Just so that we have the ability to get that piece of equipment out on the fires, or the calls that it needs to go out.
Other than the new, apartment building that's being built, what else would you use it for?
So the commercial buildings that are up in the industrial park, up in Sweet Parkway, so we just had a fire over in the Simplot complex down on Highway 19, and the commercial buildings, they don't look that tall, but the ladders that we carry on our engines are 24 foot tall, 24 foot long. And so when you have to get up on top of those bigger buildings, you have to wind up using a ladder truck. The ladder truck, in addition to the tower that it has on it, it also carries, I think it's 212 feet of ground ladders in the bay underneath it. So it's got much taller ladders than what we carry on our engines. So it gives us quite a bit more flexibility in those type of operations. So the commercial buildings that are going in and multi-story residential buildings that are greater than 2 stories are the big problem that we're trying to address with this.
With the staff you have now, how many more people, say you had your way with it all, and how many more people would take to staff that truck and still meet the other responsibilities?
In a perfect world, I'd like to have 12 more people. That would allow me to put 4 people on each shift on that truck and actually be able to use that truck to its maximum capability.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from any council members? Are you wanting to say something?
I am.
I thought you
I'm
saw your
waiting
time
for
up
the
already.
question. I'm waiting for the question.
How did you work it out?
How do we pay for it? So, will someone please ask me that question?
I think Counselor Doty was leading into that, so.
How did you work it out?
How did I work it out? All right. So I handed out a packet to, everyone tonight, that has a couple documents in it. So Brent, if you can pull those up for me, please. Earlier, we talked about Fund 51 and fund balance, in our workshop. So here's where this Fund 50, is that Fund 51 or is that 22? 51, the next one. There we go. Okay, so here in Fund 51, this is the capital fund, for the fire department. So what you're looking at here in the ending balance, I pulled this report on 2/21, so this is the most current balance that we have. So sitting in cash, which is the first line, the capital fund has $522,714. In the investment account, which is also cash, they have $835,220. Now, down below where I've got a bracket, that's a loan. So the capital fund has made a loan to the impact fees to pay for Station 3. So when we go down, Brent, can we scroll just a little bit? When we go down right here to look at the fund balance, while we can't see off to the left the label, but the label is fund balance. The fund balance in the capital fund reads $3.9 million, but that isn't quite the exact amount in the fund balance because you have to take out the loan. So the $250,000 is the current loan payment that is due to come into the capital fund. We usually make those loan payments sometime in August, close to the year end. And then the balance that's due to this fund is $2 million. So when you take $2.2 million off of that 3.9, that leaves you pretty close to the amount that you see in the cash fund and the investment fund. So rather than totally decimating this Fund 51 and taking all of the cash and all of the investment to pay for this truck and then outfit it based upon the information that Mr. Johnson has presented, the proposal tonight is, and this isn't for your decision tonight, this is just information for you tonight. Because if you sign the letter of intent, then we will come back. I don't know the exact time frame of this, but if the letter of intent is signed tonight, then Douglas County, is that the county? Douglas County will have to go through their process of disposing that asset. And once that asset is disposed and we have that confirmation that it's being sold to us through their process, then we will come before you tonight, not tonight, but we will come before you when we get that document with a resolution to buy the truck. And then we will also have a resolution to how do we pay for the truck, which will, the next component piece will be in a loan. So the proposal for your consideration is that we take half of that cost of that truck at $600,000 and take it from the investment account out of that $835,000 amount, and that's the Fund 51 contribution. The next document that you have before you, Brent, is Fund 22. In Fund 22, we would ask for the Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund to do an internal loan to the capital fund. And if we can scroll down a little bit to the fund balance. So again, I have some brackets here. The perpetual fund also has a loan to the golf course. And as you can see, there's $139,000 owing to the perpetual care fund from the golf course, which if you net that against the fund balance of $1.6 million, which is just down a little bit, Brent. Yep, down, right there. Yeah, so the perpetual care fund would be capable of providing an internal loan to the capital fund to acquire this apparatus. So then we would ask for a $600,000 loan from the perpetual care fund. And then I have another document that shows the proposal of the loan payback amount. So this would be a 5-year amount, this is the amortization schedule proposing the payments. The payments would begin in 2023, with principal payments of $125,000. I looked at what the interest rate is, currently, interest rate is at 3.19 in the market, so I just did 3%. We know we're not a loaning institution, so we're not in the business to make a lot of money, but we want to be fair and equitable when we do an internal loan. So I've got the loan at 3% interest rate over 5 years, and so you would have a total payback to the perpetual care fund of $652,500, where $52,500 would be interest that would go into the perpetual care fund. Now, Brett, can we go back to that Fund 51, please? So it looks like the first payment would be about $143,000 in the year 2023, and there in the brackets where we show due from other funds, that $250,000. So that's a loan payment that's going to come into Fund 51. So that loan payment that comes into the capital fund, we would then turn around and use it to make a payment back to the perpetual care fund.
Well, that's clear as mud.
Try doing this all day long, Councilman Allgood.
I'd just like to make a comment. I've talked to Carol extensively about this, and, you know, we came to her with a problem, and she was able to come up with a solution. So I thank you for putting your time and effort into that, and it does sound confusing. I probably had her explain it 5 or 6 times.
Want me to do it again?
No, not again for me. But, and I think it's also important to recognize that the truck is used for more than just spraying water on fires, and I think sometimes that's lost, that it's a rescue apparatus as well, both not just above your head, but below ground too, if you need to use it for that. And, who knew I'd learned so much about firefighting, because that's clearly not my profession, but I'm learning more about it, and so thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Doty. Any other comments or questions for Carol?
Mayor,
Yes.
so how much money would the, 12 firemen cost us with benefits and everything to man this thing for 3 shifts?
Oh, my goodness, you're probably talking on average right now, and we still have to do our cost analysis, and we don't know what the labor agreement is going to be, when we go into negotiations, but currently, a firefighter, runs us about $75,000, per firefighter, and then, of course, first year of outfitting them.
Mm-hmm.
And then Carol, or perhaps Chief Johnson, I know that there's been talk and even maybe some initial work on a SAFER grant, I believe it's called, to acquire, I think, 6 firefighters, is that correct?
Yes.
So, and that grant, I believe, pays for the first 2 or 3 years, 3 years of their salary, and then we've got to pick it up after that. So, and the likelihood of getting that grant, I mean, it looks like a pretty good.
It's a competitive grant.
Competitive grant?
Yeah. So it is a competitive grant. And one thing to note about the SAFER grant this time around, when I worked for the city of Nampa, they did a SAFER grant over there, and we also did the COPS grant. And in years past, those grants were a graduated grant, where your first time around, it paid for the first 100% of those wages and benefits, and then the next year, the city had to pick up 25%, and then the following year 50%, and then the third and final year was an absorption. This one doesn't give you the graduated, so it will be, whereas in the graduation of those kind of grants, it allows you to have that ability to budget accordingly and get there. But this grant, after that third year, it's all. So.
And the requirement is we maintain that level of service for another 3 years, is that 1 year?
Oh, it's a year? Okay, wow, they used to be 3 years requirement to keep them on. And those are not fun, because they like to come out and audit those grants when you do those, and they are not fun.
Just to clarify, they're called SABRE grants?
SAFER.
SAFER grants.
S-A-F, as in
Okay,
Frank.
and that's from federal government or state?
Yes, federal.
Okay.
Federal.
So when we start our budgeting in July or so, we're gonna have to think about that too, aren't we?
You're gonna have to look at that as you look into your budget as, having to, rather than having that graduation, you're gonna have a full-on 6 firefighters if we win that grant.
And then when we, who's gonna make up the, proposal for that? And what would set us above anybody else to receive the money?
Proposal? I believe, Chief Chief Donahue's already submitted the grant.
Yes, it gets submitted, 6 days ago.
I see.
So, the deadline for the grant was 6 days ago, so you would have, last day, we submitted it, and we wanted to make sure that we were able to actually award it, so that it depends, so there has been years where they haven't been able to get awarded all of the money in the grant program,
Mm-hmm.
and there's been years where they have had more grant proposals than money to get in, so, it's entirely dependent on all of the other fire departments in the United States that apply for those grants and how to get it.
So do we know what would set us apart from anybody else? Do we know that?
So Chief Donahue, I sat on the Safer Grant Review Board for about 15 years.
And the grant that he wrote, I think it's gonna be extremely competitive, because the grant guidelines are actually, trying to achieve, staffing in accordance with NFPA 1710. And so the proposal that he laid out actually had us locked in very clearly to NFPA 1710. So if that is the criteria that they're using to judge, our department, then we're gonna be very competitive.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Or
One
comments?
more
Yes,
question, just,
Councilman Alden, go for it.
will we surplus the old ladder truck, or will it stay in service?
No, I would suggest that we surplus it. The maintenance costs for keeping it running are pretty significant. The maintenance cost for this new piece of equipment is gonna be quite a bit lower than it, and, I mean, if we can't staff one, there's no reason to keep two. So I would highly suggest that we surplus that and get it out of our fleet as quickly as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Yes.
So are all your firefighters gonna be trained on the ladder truck?
Eventually, yes.
Okay. So right now, the idea is that you would have the ladder truck, take them off the engine, put them on the ladder, so it won't be sitting idle. It would be being used after they were trained,
Yes, so we will.
or before we could fully staff it.
Yeah, so we won't train everybody to start with. The guys at Station One, obviously, will be the people that we spend a lot of time training down. And then, that nobody ever gets to spend their whole career at a station. So everybody's gonna wind up at that station eventually, and eventually everybody's gonna have the knowledge, skill, and ability to operate on that piece of equipment.
Any other questions or comments or discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
If I may. Chief Johnson, do we know of any, like rural fire districts or smaller communities that might be interested in that truck, in the old truck?
Yeah, Weiser City, Weiser Rural are coming together, and they have,
Older piece of equipment than we do, and if we decide to get rid of that, they would probably be very interested in acquiring that piece of equipment. And there's a couple of fire departments in Oregon that would probably be interested in it too, but, the chief in Weiser has already made it clear that when we get ready to get rid of it, he would like to be notified of that, and at least be.
Well, now I have a question on that question.
Yes, go ahead.
Do we have what it's worth, or what its estimated value would be?
I don't have any idea. I would find an expert in that matter. I'm not that expert.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, just one, it's probably redundant, but you've already stated that we're in the deficit due to overtime. In your presentation, you said we need more overtime, so there'd be something else to consider the need to pay for.
Correct, thank you, Councilman Williams. Yes, and earlier in our workshop, I had mentioned that, and what the discussion was with Chief Donahue was that we would look at perhaps not doing a transfer of revenue into this capital fund in order for them to meet their budget. So if we look at in Fund 51, I'm trying to see what line that it would be on. On the second page, Brent, we have a budget of transfer in, which would be coming from fire department's budget. This would be a transfer in of $526,000. So we would look at not making that transfer, or maybe a partial transfer based upon what the budget would need to to not have a loss. Because it doesn't have enough fund balance to cover based upon that loss, so.
Yep. And I believe, I know we talked about earlier, you know, that this does come back to us after Wenatchee County does their deal. And I think, and, Ms. Garrett can correct me, March 7th, I think, is when we're planning on bringing this back to next city council meeting, if I'm not mistaken. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
So,
Great
pretty
meeting.
quick. So hoping that they
Yes.
can get it done pretty fast, and then we'll bring it back as quick as we can. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks for that. So, any other questions or comments or follow-ups? Okay, is there any motions in regards to approving the resolution to authorize the execution of a letter of intent to purchase said ladder truck?
So moved.
Very good, so we have a motion by Counselor Register, is there a second? Second. Second by Counselor Doty. Madam Rowe, will you please call the roll?
Richter,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Dottie,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Doty,
Yes.
August.
Yes.
Very good, motion passes unanimously. So we'll get that sent off, I'm sure, tomorrow, and hopefully hear back from them as quick as possible and get this back here on March 7th. So we're excited, so thank you so much to everybody that took part in that, for the crew that went up there, and inspect it and give it a little joyride around town. Hopefully you didn't go over any bridges you weren't supposed to, and hopefully there's not a bridge you have to go over to get here that they won't let you, so you might have to airlift it over that bridge to get to the other side, so. And just, again, the foresight and being ready to do something like this is so important, you know, to provide the equipment that our firefighters need, so we're excited for that. And one challenge down, and the next challenge is make sure we get a staffing to those firefighters, so, we're excited for that too, for those opportunities. So thank you for being here, taking the time to do this tonight in that regard. So that concludes action item number 5. Moves us on to action item number 6, beginning of our quasi judicial hearing. So with that, I will read this opening statement. A quasi judicial hearing involves the consideration of a land use request such as an annexation, rezone classification, or approval of a subdivision preliminary plat. Public hearing procedures as required by the Idaho Code are as follows. Oral and written testimony will be accepted from those who have signed in to speak prior to the hearing being declared open. When providing testimony, please come to the podium, state your name and address, which will be included in the record. Staff will first present a report regarding the application being considered, then public testimony with the applicant or the applicant's representative presenting a summary of the request first, followed by testimony of those in support, then those in neutral, and finally those in opposition. The applicant will then be offered the opportunity to provide rebuttal testimony if they so choose. And I note that all public testimony will be limited to 5 minutes or less, and then allowing for questions from the council afterwards. After rebuttal testimony is given, the public testimony portion of the public hearing will be closed, and no new oral or written testimony will be allowed at that point. So with that, our next item on the agenda is case number ANN 21-10/PUD 21-4, which is a request for an annexation of parcel R 35280 with a zoning designation of R2 medium density residential. Concurrently, request for a planned unit development for Ryan's Crossing Townhomes consisting of 13 duplex structures for a total of 26 residential units, subject to a development agreement. Property is located at the southwest corner of Marble Front Road and Smead Parkway. Hearing examiner heard this on January 25th of this year and forwarded it with a recommendation of approval as conditioned. With that, Mr. Alex, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
The time is yours.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. First time being in front of all of you. So it's pretty summarized there. We have Ryan Crossing's townhome off the corner of Smead and Marble Front. They are proposing 13 duplexes, so 26 units in total, with the amenities being a half basketball court, a tot lot, a pickleball court, and a EV charging station, which is requested. They are proposing 19.3% open space with a 5.7 dwelling units per acre. The way this development meets the PUD that we see is that it's an infill development surrounded by other future developments. I don't have those off the top of my head at the moment, but those have all been approved. They are also constrained as this is a kind of awkward triangular piece of property to work with. They have their walkway along the Salomon drain, and that's pretty much it. I'm open for any questions or for applicants to come up.
Okay, very good. Do we have any questions from any of the counselors for staff?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Counselor.
I sound like a broken record, I know, but have we contacted the school districts about this one?
Yes, we have.
How many have you, and what have they said? Are you in Valley View or Caldwell?
Valley View.
Okay.
They did share some concerns about being filled, which has been a general concern for most youth development. Their main requests were that they make sure they really develop these sidewalks with proper lighting so kids can walk to school and have a, safe travel path.
Mm-hmm.
But they did want to express their concern about being at capacity at this time.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff from any council members? Yes, Council President Holden.
So, would you just, Smead doesn't go through there yet on the backside, correct? Or does it?
Yeah, it does. It goes all the way up to Marble Front.
Okay, so the developer, what is the agreement with the developer to, does he have any roadway improvements, I guess is what I'm
I believe it's a right turn lane on Marble Front. And I can't remember anything on Smead, but the applicant can talk more about that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Counselor.
So did they agree to do the sidewalks and all of that?
Yes.
And do they have to do that first, or?
That's a general requirement for engineering as well, is those road improvements.
Any other questions? And I believe this, if I'm not mistaken, looks like it's just north and west of the new Summerview Middle School. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. So we will begin with those in favor of the request. So we have one person signed up in support, Stephanie Hopkins. You'll please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and then I think, Madam Clerk, can you keep your time today? If you don't mind. I know you got a lot of other stuff going on. We are hoping getting stuff here soon, so we don't have to worry about that. So you're going to state your name and address for the record, and then you have 5 minutes to present to the council.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Stephanie Hopkins with KM Engineering. Our address is 5725 North Discovery Way, Boise, 83713. So, Alex did a really great job summarizing our request. I'm here on behalf of our client, who's also the property owner of the site, to present Ryan's Crossing Townhomes. We're requesting annexation and zoning into the city Caldwell with the R2 zoning district and planned unit development for 13 duplex structures, which will be 26 units overall. We're currently adjacent to Smead and Marble Front, as mentioned, at the southwest corner. We're also bound by the Salomon drain, which is to the south. Planning on leaving the Salomon drain open and locating a pathway adjacent to it for future residents and other folks that live in the area. We're approximately a mile from the interstate and adjacent to existing and future residential subdivisions. You can see on the map that's up here now that there are some future subdivisions that were recently approved to the south and to the east primarily. So those kind of white figures show parcels that haven't quite been final platted yet, so they're not in the development part of things yet. There are 3 schools in a half-mile radius of the site. Summit View is a quarter mile to the south, which was mentioned. Some of the other options are charter schools and non-public schools in the area. So as you can see, they're pointing through the Van Buren Elementary School and then another school up to the west of our site. The improvements along Marble Front, Smead Parkway were done because Summit View was being constructed. So it was to make it easier to get there. This is a future land use map, part of the comprehensive plan that was approved, I think, in 2020. So it does designate this site as medium density residential, which is consistent with the R2 zoning district that we're requesting. The medium density residential land use correlates with the product that we're showing as well, planned unit development. The target density allows for up to 12 units an acre, and we're proposing about 7.3 units an acre. And this is considered infill development since there are so many future subdivisions that will be developed, which complements and supports this comprehensive plan as well. One of the policies and goals of medium density residential is to encourage infill development. So This is the zoning map. We are located to the north of properties that's zoned R2. There's R1 to the east, and then some additional R2, properties to the west, as you can see up there. There's also some light industrial in the area, so there will be jobs for folks to be able to, live close to. This is a map that shows the existing and future subdivisions in the area. As I mentioned, to the west, there's a new subdivision that was approved, I think, in 2020 of last year, or I'm sorry, June 2020, Marble Front West. It's approximately 35 acres, it's 132 buildable lots, and it's about 3.5 units an acre. That's just to our west. And then to the east, Topaz Ranch is about 60 acres. That's just to the east of, those county properties that are kind of the center between our property and Topaz Ranch. And it's about, 3 phases with 40 homes in the first phase, and that's zoned R1. So this is our development plan. As mentioned, we're proposing 13 duplex units. There'll be 26 residential units altogether. 1 point of access proposed to Marble Front, which is shown with that, driveway there. It's about 545 feet west of the Sneed Parkway intersection. We're proposing 26-foot roadways internally with curb gutter and sidewalk. We'll have 13 additional, visitor parking spaces in the center located next to, the tot lot that we're proposing. And then each of the units will have a 2-car garage as well. We're retaining the Salomon drain, as mentioned. We'll be leaving it open to kind of leave it in its natural state, improved, of course, so it'll be cleaned up, for folks to be able to recreate along there. And we are proposing, four amenities. We have a half basketball court, pickleball court, and then the tot lot, which is in the center of all the parking. And each of the units will be sprinklers, which is a building code requirement, but also counts as an amenity. And as conditioned by the hearing examiner, we'll be doing a electrical vehicle, charging station. So our client is in support of that. We have, spoken with Public Works to make sure that we're designing the improvements along Marble Front and Sneed in their requirements. So we have a turn lane, as, Alex mentioned.
Go ahead, take another minute, you're good, wrap it up.
Thanks. We have improvements along Marble Front, as Alex mentioned, and then I think 35 feet, is what's required to be dedicated along both of those roadways. So open space and amenities, as mentioned, just a pretty picture to help you see what's required. We'll be complying with all the landscaping requirements and everything that's required, for code. These are the elevations, kind of a modern contemporary style stucco with, some lap siding and then, shingle roof. And plenty of windows and articulation modulation for the structures. Most of the living space will be downstairs. The kitchen, bathrooms, and living space will be downstairs, and then bedrooms, and then 1 bathroom will be upstairs. So, with that, I'd like to thank you for hearing us tonight. We're excited about this project. I think it'll really be a great addition to this area. It's going to bring a housing type that's not available in this area, close to, schools and other existing services, and, it complements the comprehensive plan while adhering to the R2 zoning district requirements. So, thank you. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you so much. Yes, is there any questions from council?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Sonic?
what kind of price range are we looking at here?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Static, I spoke with our client last time, and I don't think they really have anything in mind. It's just gonna be market driven.
Okay.
Other questions from council? Okay, looks like that's it for now, at least. Okay. So that was the only person signed up in support. There's nobody signed up in neutral. We do have a couple of people signed up, in opposition. So we will begin with, Mr. Clendenin Kirby. If you'll please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and then you will have 5 minutes to provide your testimony.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for allowing me to be here. My name is Kirby Clendenin. I live at 4520 Marble Front Road in Caldwell, Idaho. At the hearing which recommended this case to the city council, I stood up and said something to the effect that I wish it could be kept as R1, and the hearing examiner told me, well, R1 allows duplexes, and I kind of was unaware of what all that entails, so I just kind of folded and just stepped down. But as I have researched it since that meeting, R1 would require a special use permit to do duplex, whereas R2, no special use permit needed. And, in fact, it actually opens up the door for more than duplexes. And so, I wanted to, just put in my pitch, for, the zoning part of this. On that picture, my property is the bolder white lines. If you could, just humor me for a moment, can you give me the pictures that I was gonna show you? Okay, this is me 2 years ago, standing on the eastern border of my property. You know, I know there has to be growth, and I'm not opposed to that. I mean, I don't like it, but I'm not opposed to it. But we were able to keep it R1, but now show me the next photo. So this is what R1, that's the exact same spot next to my garage. That's what R1 looks like. Obviously, I'm not very happy with that. Okay, you can see the roof line there, the sagging and stuff in it. Did you see that? Yes, okay. This is my backyard, which we used to have lots of privacy. Now, you know, these pictures you see, when the planners put this before you, it's looking down. And we didn't realize at the time that they were going to build ground level up 8 to 10 feet, then park the houses on top of that. So now these houses just have a huge view of what used to be a private backyard. It's just very disconcerting. I just went and purchased a whole load of trees. We're gonna try our best to plant trees all in there to get a little bit of privacy back. But, now if you just go to the next picture, and this is my last picture. Maybe it was the first one you showed. The one that showed the aerial photo? Yes, thank you. So all the green areas around us are under development now. And the schools, one school and another one soon is to the south part of the property. So we're having development all the way around us. And it's R1 on the right, it's R1 on the north side of Marblefront, and they're asking for R2, which just bypasses the special use permit thing. So I'm just against this because I think that it should be zoned R1 so that we can have the opportunity to testify and give our input about this special use permit. So I don't like it just going straight to R2. Thank you for your time.
Very good, thank you. Are there any questions from council? Commissioner Clinton? Yes, Commissioner Fritz.
Can I just get a brief overview of the difference between R1 and R2?
Debbie, it's gonna be you.
Thank you, Councilman. The, R1 and R2, so this is primarily with regards to density, and then there are some land uses that are allowed in R2 that are not, permitted or special use permitted in R1. So R1, the density is the standard density is 3 units per acre. Or if they were to do a PUD, which is under review tonight, they could do up to 6 units per acre and meeting the criteria of a planned unit development. R2, the density, the standard density would be 4 units per acre, or with a planned unit development, they could do up to 12 units per acre, meeting all the requirements of a planned unit development as defined in the code. So, and this development is under 8 units per acre, so they haven't taken full advantage of the opportunity of the planned unit development, which is good. I mean, they went through several iterations of this plan, to land on this in the streets, but, so the density is the primary difference between R1 and R2. As indicated, in the R1 zone, a duplex on a parcel would require a special use permit. In the R2 or medium density residential zone, a duplex is an allowed use in that zone, and it's something that we have to be cognizant of as developments come forward for single-family residential in an R2 zone. We need to ensure that that's in fact what they build versus putting in duplexes, but that's the primary difference between the two zones.
So for this project, could they do it under an R1, or do they have to be in R2?
They would have to reduce the number of units on this project if they were to do an R1. So they're a little over 7 units per acre, and the maximum they could have in an R1 zone with a planned unit development or infill development as they're proposing would be 6 units per acre.
Any other questions? Any other questions for Mr. Clement? Yes, Council President.
I'm just trying to orient where I saw your pictures, if you could help me with that.
Yes.
So when you were showing the backyard where the houses were looking over your fence, where would those be?
Well, if I can figure out how to do this. Oh, what's that? Oh, the green laser?
It's right there under that shelf, right, yes, right there.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. I was standing right there, and I took the second picture also right there. So this development is taking place in here.
So that's where, when you showed us the backs of those houses that you see over your fence,
Yes,
they were along that line there.
where they were all raised up high and looking
Yes.
down in there, that's right along this border of my property.
Okay, so this development that we're considering this evening is on the opposite side of the property?
Yeah, so, it's true, this is what we're considering.
Yes.
But I wanted to show you the other, to show you what, now the Simpsons live right next to me, she'll be up next. And this is what we're living with, and it's tough, I'll just tell you.
No, I understand, I just wanted to mentally
I
see how
appreciate
this
you
works.
asking.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Council Register.
Mr. Mayor. So I just want to be clear why you want to keep it in R1 and not in R2.
Well,
It doesn't sound like you're opposed to the project, just the way that
all
it's
right. Well,
zoned.
the reason is because R2 opens this up for 3, 4, 5 plexes. And I don't, even though that's not planned right now, I intend for my children to own this property someday. And 30 years down the road, if it's, R2, they wouldn't have a leg to stand on. It could be developed however you want it. So I just see it as a future thing. We've got R1 all the way around, let's just keep it that way.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? Because I know there's a development agreement as part of that. Does that give you any comfort at all knowing that the development agreement can say, no, you can't do triplexes or fourplexes, it has to be what's proposed today, and they can't change that unless they come back for another hearing? Does that give you any comfort at all, or no, we want it to R1?
I would prefer single homes on there because, and let's see, I gotta be careful how I say this, but, I just think it will be a little bit fewer people and a little less traffic. That's how I see it.
Okay.
Mr.
Yes, follow-up question, go ahead.
It's zoned the way that it's proposed right now, even with the agreement that he's talking about, then if that property is sold, would it still be zoned that way, or would it? So then whoever bought it could put whatever they wanted on there if it's kept in R2.
So if, Madam Counselor, if the property is annexed and zoned for medium-density residential or R2, that's what the zoning will be unless it were changed back in front of this hearing body. The development agreement, what the development agreement does is ensure that the development is as proposed. They will have to develop this, and even a future owner would have to develop this as proposed unless they came back before this hearing body and amended that development agreement for something different.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Strawbeck.
I just want to remind everybody that in the Valley View School District, they're in hock right now to the tune of $133 million. And they, with all these developments, they're gonna have to build more schools, and guess who pays for that? The taxpayers do. So we really have to be careful on what we're developing here, because, I mean, they're so far behind right now, I don't know if they ever catch up unless they raise their taxes again, you know? But every development that goes in like this, that has a lot of people in it, or a lot of bodies or kids in it, it definitely affects the taxpayers' pocket by a large amount, because I'm in Valley View School District right now, I know exactly what the pain is, so anyway, just a comment.
Any other questions for Mr. Clendenin, so we can take his seat if he'd like to?
That's right. I believe the Simpsons will have more to say with regard to Valley View, and maybe, thank you.
Very good, thank you so much for being here, appreciate it. Cindy Simpson. So if you'll please state your name and your address, and then you'll have 5 minutes for your testimony.
My name is Cindy Simpson, I reside at 4500 Marble Front Road, and we used to say I've been sworn in, but we weren't sworn in. Okay. Mr. Mayor and City Council, thank you for allowing us to voice our concerns, and I continue to come to these meetings, and I will continue to plead with you, the City Council, to protect the prestige of the Marble Front Road area, to not defile the beauty that those of us who reside there chose. I love it enough to fight for its splendor to be protected. I am not against development, but I think we can grow with grace a little better. We watch in disbelief as our majesty and farmland disappear with haphazard planning. I do not say this in disrespect. I say this from experience. Annexation of parcel R35-280 for medium density is an unjust decision to our area. I have seen an exponential increase in traffic flow, and homes are not even occupied yet. We have witnessed countless instances of excessive speeds. We videoed one drag racing instance. Police were called. We invited them to use our property to sit and observe. Sadly, their response to us was that we're spread too thin. So it was very encouraging to see all the new officers enlisted tonight, and I hope to see their presence in our Marble Front area. Marble Front Road and Smead Parkway is going to experience insane traffic in the very near future. And questions for probably the city planners is Marble Front and Smead Parkway are collector roadways right now?
You're correct, they're both collector roadways.
They're both collector roadways. So with the setup that's happening with Smead Parkway, is there any intention of reclassification of Smead Parkway to become a major collector?
Mr. Mayor, good question. It is, we usually have these planned out so that you have like aviation way is the principal, there's a minor arterial. So you would have like a minor, then a collector, then a principal, then a collector is a typical pattern. Middleton Road's the principal arterial, and KPID is a minor arterial. And so these roads in between are, and then, aviation. And there's some differences here because we're gonna ultimately terminate somewhere in front of the river with the road plan, so, but so upclassing it, probably not, it probably wouldn't be upclassed, in terms of its functional classification. That doesn't mean that road wouldn't be improved more as, demand. What we're hoping is that the road planning that we've developed does, fit the bill when everything's developed, if there's still an appropriate capacity on the road as planned.
And also the width of Marble Front Road up on the hill above Van Buren Elementary is roughly 27 feet wide with no sidewalks, no street lights to illuminate the roadway. Therefore, there is no place for foot or bicycle traffic to go except on the road on a sharp corner with very limited visibility. To consider increasing development numbers with an issue such as this is irresponsible. Tragically, in the fall of 2021, a young boy was killed on the other side of the hill that has sidewalks. It is my fear there will be another tragedy if you don't take care of this issue before you allow more congestion. Then what happens when the approved RV park opens at Marble Front and Aviation? I guarantee not all traffic flow will route onto Aviation. I have seen multiple instances of increased traffic, including semi-trucks, RVs, coming over the hill when I-84 is congested and not flowing. Unfortunately, with the way things are, it's only a matter of time until another unthinkable happens. Marble Front Road is a rural community, and we will have a huge number of children with nothing to do. Other than school, where do they go? The parks are residential. Where's the public accommodations within walking distance for the kids that are gonna be brought into the area?
Go ahead, I know there's some questions answered, so you go right ahead, a few more minutes.
Thank you, sir. Then we have the issue of schools running, or soon to be running, at max capacity. In the previous hearing that got us here, the only emphasis or concern to future developments as far as school impact seemed to be was bus stops. Yes, they are important, but there's a lot more to consider when it comes to schools than the bus stops and the development. Schools, teachers, and students are some of the greatly impacted by the last 3 insane years of dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. Children's level of education has dramatically suffered and will be impacted for years to come. Schools are filling faster than they can keep up with. Even the new schools will be at max capacity with the amount of developments coming to the area. Our children need lower numbers and more individualized attention to make up for the insanity they've been forced to endure. Teachers don't need the pressures of maxed out numbers in their classroom. They have already spent 3 years juggling between virtual and regular classroom settings, mask mandates. Give them a break. They need to focus on individualized education. I spoke with the Valley U District office. In speaking with them, it's very evident that the rapid development puts them in a dire situation. They can't build and facilitate schools fast enough. The 2 elementary schools coming up on the bond elections, logistically, should have happened in 2019. Right now, they have 23 portables. That's 46 classrooms. That nearly fills up the schools that are being built with the existing portables. The fact that you're considering maximizing developments for maximum numbers is shameful. Like I stated before, development is bound to happen, and Ryan's Crossing on paper looks to be a good design. But on this particular corner, we need the lowest population density possible. I ask you to put the revenue of development aside and consider the lives impacted by the increase in numbers. The difference in medium and low density could mean anywhere from 15 to 60 people, 15 to 30 cars on a daily basis. all coming from this small triangle piece of property onto what is projected to be an extremely congested corner. Quality of life needs to come before quantity of dollars. There is no amount of money that can replace a lost life or a life lost in the system because there's not quality of time spent with them. Thank you so much for hearing me out, and please just consider, we have to embrace the development. It's the future, but really and truly what we have going out there, we don't need more maximum density.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Don't go anywhere yet. We might have a question or two. Is there any questions from any of the council for Ms. Simpson? Yes,
Yeah.
Council President.
I just want you to kind of, and I'm not advocating for or against, I just want you to know kind of where we have to look as a council, is we're very short of housing valley-wide.
Oh, I know.
And one of the main shortages we have is transitional housing, that housing between owning your own home and finding a place to rent. And so, and this is just my opinion, but I prefer a duplex situation to 4 floors of apartment buildings and housing 200 people in one. And so, when these come before me, I understand what you're saying, you know, but literally, they could make it much worse than this, you know, if they were to want to put 4-story apartments or something.
Oh, I understand that. That's why I've fought R2 all along.
So I certainly understand your desire to minimize traffic around your house. And it's completely reasonable. We're just fighting with the same issue of where do we put this affordable housing, this transitional housing for people, so that we have an even mix of everything for people in Caldwell. And so anyway, I'm not denigrating anything you're saying, I'm just saying we're just trying to make sure everybody has an opportunity.
I totally understand that. And it's not, I mean, I hate the traffic around my house, but I don't stand here to testify for my benefit. I'm concerned about all the kids in this area. And I think keeping it to the lower density is a smarter thing. There's not, the area, the community is not facilitated for multifamily. There's nothing for them. There's schools.
Any other questions from any of the council? Okay, very good. Thank you so much, Ms. Simpson. Alan Simpson, if you'll please come forward and state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 5 minutes for your testimony.
Alan Simpson, 4500 Marble Front Road, Caldwell. I'll be short. They kind of stole a lot of things that I was gonna say, but, really truly, we live on the, corner there, just directly across, the east of the property we're talking about. So yes, that piece, and then Kirby lives next to us. So, safety's my primary concern. Again, as they've both mentioned, we've had people drag racing their pickups down there. Again, we videoed it, we had cops come out, and like Cindy said, we really appreciate seeing the additional officers put in tonight. That was very encouraging. We've seen motorcycles racing out there. We know they were trying to hit that 100-mile-an-hour mark because they're flying by. And so there's people going flying by there all the time. And with Smead now, that used to be just a 2-lane gravel road to 2 neighbors, that there's a ton of people going flying down through there. Cindy's alluded to it in one of your meetings before, it's Smead Raceway, not Smead Parkway, because of how fast they go down there. But the concern that we have, again, trying to push this to R1, low density, keep it single family, we've got grandkids that are in the neighborhood, we've got, all the kids that'll be coming in there. The increased traffic currently with the brown area of the new subdivision, there's not one house in all of these subdivisions that's been occupied yet. There's 15 or 17 now going in that one, and the increased traffic already is really crazy. But I think if I recall correctly from the different meetings, the piece that you see there on the bottom right, That's gonna be 180-ish homes in that neighborhood. The green here to the south of the triangle that you're talking about is in the 140 home ballpark. Two pieces across to the south, to the north of us right there are both around 40, so we're in the neighborhood of 400 homes going in this circle around here. So to add medium density and try to pack even more into there, it just, and we haven't had one home occupied yet. So our biggest push is to keep it single family, lowest density possible for the safety of the kids and our neighborhood. That's really what I can say.
Perfect, thank you very much. Any questions from the council for Mr. Simpson? Okay, okay, thank you so much for coming. So that is all that is signed up, in favor, neutral, and against. Is there anyone else that'd like to come forward and speak on this item? And let the record reflect that no one came forward. So with that, Ms. Hopkins, it is your turn for rebuttal. If you'll please come forward, the time is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I don't need to say my name again, do I? Stephanie Hopkins with KM Engineering.
Thank you.
5725 North Discovery Way. So I guess, we heard from Kirby, Cindy, and Ellen at the last hearing, and they voiced similar concerns during the hearing and at our neighborhood meeting as well. So last August, we held a neighborhood meeting on site, and kind of talked about a lot of their concerns and some of the issues they saw with the project and made some changes based on those comments in the best way we could with the site constraints that this site has, as well as the type of development that our client wants to pursue. So, we initially, I meant to cover this in my presentation and failed to, but we initially had 2 points of access. We had one to Smead Parkway and then one to Marble Front. The neighbors were concerned about the access to Smead, so we actually got rid of that access point to make just one access to Marble Front. And then, initially we'd had the duplex units connected more so it was more of a longer facade on the building, and we separated those so that they appear more like single-family homes. And we also separated out the amenities a bit so that it would be more easily accessible for residents and wouldn't concentrate all the activity in one spot. So, we tried our best to respond to some of their concerns in a way that would work with what our client wants and what the neighbors want. As far as privacy for adjacent neighbors, I know it's difficult when a different kind of housing product comes into an area. As Councilman McGee mentioned, Caldwell needs different housing products, and there are a lot of folks out there that can't afford to live in single-family homes or certain types of homes, and this will bring a product that a certain demographic is not currently being served with. The spacing between the existing homes, so the Simpsons house on the east, it's about 70 to 80 feet from their property line to our property line. And then I think to the next built structure is probably about 85 feet. So the roadway, I think, is 70 feet. So that should provide, hopefully, a buffer with the traffic and then also our, the vegetative landscaping that we're doing. And then, the Salomon drain, we're also not going to be touching, and it's a 40-foot easement. So hopefully that'll provide a little bit of a buffer to what'll be a future subdivision to the south. They mentioned grading of the site. We'll be bringing the site up to meet the roadway that's already been improved and will be improved with our project. So I think it'll be like an additional 5 to 10 feet depending on what we need to do. That probably will make us a little bit higher than the Simpsons house to the east, just because I think that they're probably below the grade of Smead Parkway on that side. And as mentioned, we'll be in a development agreement that'll tie us to this concept plan. So although R2 does allow for duplexes as a permitted use, we're doing so as a planned unit development, which is giving you folks more of a chance to kind of fine tune the design as well as connect it to the development agreement. Cindy has mentioned the prestige of the Marble Front area, and I don't disagree with her. I think it's a really nice area. I've lived in Treasure Valley since I was a child, so I mean, Caldwell's always been a place that I think is wonderful, and it's, you know, until recently hasn't been developing in the way that it is now. But Smead Parkway and Marble Front are both collectors, which means they're supposed to take on a little bit more traffic than a local roadway would. That's a perfect location for something like this product that will have maybe a little bit more traffic trips than the same size of a site with single-family homes on it. So, not a very eloquent way to say more density, I think, close to a higher traffic roadway makes sense, especially close to a school and, other expanding infrastructure from adjacent neighborhoods. The comp plan does designate the site as medium density residential, and we're in line with that with the R2 designation. Part of the comprehensive plan, as you're well aware, is, neighbors and residents getting the chance to vision what they see for the city, and that was done in 2020, and, you folks thought this area was good for medium density, and that's what we're showing you today. This is not a multifamily development. I know that it may appear that way because it's different than the single-family homes that are adjacent, but it really, they're duplex units, so each home will have an attached wall with 2 units on each side with their own garages, and they will function like single-family homes. They just look a little bit more dense than, what's adjacent. And as far as amenities, I know that, I think Cindy had mentioned that she's concerned that kids won't have amenities in this area, but this development's bringing forward 3 usable amenities for residents, which is a pretty large amount for the size of the site, 3.5 acres, and we're proposing 3 amenities as well as other open space and some active open space. So I think that'll serve the residents well. I think as far as the school concerns, the Valley View School District did say that the high school and elementary schools were at capacity. I know that property taxes are a large part of how schools are funded, and unfortunately, I know that they're tied that way. 26 residential units will bring forward more revenue for them, and will hopefully help that situation a little bit. Summit View, which is the south, is not at capacity yet, so that would be a convenient place for any child that lives within this development to walk to school. I know, so Alan Simpson had mentioned that, and I think Cindy had as well, that Marble Front is used as kind of a drag strip, at this moment, and I think as development occurs out in this area and more homes are built, that'll probably decrease just because folks won't have the opportunity to go fast without encountering other vehicles or pedestrians, which is probably not the answer that they're looking for, because I think traffic will increase overall, but hopefully the outliers that like to speed and be reckless will decrease with that. So I think I have hopefully answered all the questions. Let me know if I missed anything, but otherwise I'll answer any questions you may have.
Very good, thank you very much. Yes, Councilor Doty.
So one of their concerns is privacy as well, and like you said, when you showed us the pretty picture, so to speak, I noticed quite a few trees that are intended to go along that property line that is close to that property line. Is that an accurate depiction of the amount of trees you're going to plant, or?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Doty, I think the city requires 1 per 35 feet. And we'll be retaining any trees that are required to be retained along that ditch. So I think that our landscape architect did design this 1 per 35, it looks like it would be right along that, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have,
Yes, Councilor Register.
I just want to be clear, because I kind of heard 2 different things. Are these each for sale, or are they owned by one person and rented?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Register, they are, I believe, each for sale. I don't have our client here with me, but I can message him and see really quick, but I believe that they're each for sale.
Any other questions?
Do you know if they're?
Councilman Register, so Deb makes a good point. It's not platted, so they won't be individually allotted. So they will have to be rented or leased. It'll be one overall owner.
Okay, so one owner and then
yeah, thank you.
rentals or leased, so not for sale.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification.
And then have they agreed to do what the school has asked as far as the sidewalks and lighting?
So with the concerns for sidewalks and lighting, the, engineering memorandum and our requirements, standards and requirements for development require that sidewalks are a part of the frontage improvements and street lighting as well. So every development is required to meet those considerations.
Any other questions? I'll maybe just take one, I know, just for clarification for the record, you had mentioned Councilman McGee, it was actually Councilman, Allgood, that made those comments. So you just got the names, but I just want, as Debbie's listening to this, to make sure that, so we'll just state that. And I know we do have Councilman McGee with us. Do you have any questions, Councilman McGee?
I don't, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, very good, excellent. Thank you so much, appreciate it.
I do have another question.
Oh, yes,
Sorry.
no, you're good, go
Because
for
I'm
it.
still learning, in fact, I had an opportunity to meet with, Ms. Root this week, so now I have more questions. If this was, I just want to be clear that if this was zoned R1, they could still make the duplexes with a special use permit, which would be less.
That is correct.
And how many less again?
So, so it's approximately 3 acres. They get 3 units per acre, so there's 6 units that they could have single-family residential. With a PUD, there could be up to 18 units on the approximate 3 acres. So a duplex, it isn't 3 structures per acre, it's 3 units, 3 residential units. So they don't really, you know, it would be fewer duplexes versus single-family units, either way, so.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, very good, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay, that concludes all the testimony. Is there a motion to close the public testimony portion of this hearing?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I do have some questions.
Oh, yes.
I just
Go right
didn't have
ahead.
any questions.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been out to Marble Front in a while in this area. The last time I was there, it was somewhat narrow roadway and limited shoulders. Is that still the general makeup of Marble Front, today?
Mr. Mayor, Council President, unless, only in locations where there has been development that's been required to widen the road, where there have been actual sectional improvements to Marble Front, otherwise it's just been maintained in current condition.
So it's still, in many places, it still looks like a county road?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? And staff is still, they're not off just because public testimony closes. They're free game anytime, just so you know. But don't feel like you can't ask another question if you want to.
Mayor.
Yes.
I move we close public testimony portion of this hearing.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
So a motion by Council President Allgood, second by Council Register to close the public testimony portion of this hearing. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So that moves us on to the next portion of or part of this hearing. So we would open this up for discussion among the council. And there's always appropriate to make a motion, but discussion I think is very appropriate, especially in something of this nature. So I turn that over to council.
Well, I'll go. I feel a little bit conflicted on this one, only because I do believe in growth and I do believe in offering the housing that we need, but I also believe in listening to our community, and I don't think it's, I can't tell, and I want to be sure that I don't think it's unreasonable. They're not asking for us not to do it, only to keep the zoning so that there isn't going to be a future problem or have a building issue is the way I'm understanding it. And I just don't think that's unreasonable to keep it at an R1 and let them do their project anyway, just under those circumstances.
And just some clarification, Mr. Hilke on that, let's continue this discussion. So with the request for an R2, in order for an R1 zoning designation that was perhaps mentioned there, that would require a new application, correct? You could not, even though, since it was noticed as R2, you couldn't, say, approve it for an R1 zoning. Is that more or less correct, or?
Yeah, I think that my recommendation was that the
very good, thank you very much. And that was just for clarification, for understanding of kind of the process in that regard. So, thank you for those comments and that question. Other comments, other discussion from the council?
Well, I'm in alignment with Councilwoman Register. And I'm very conflicted as well, because this seems to be a very well-designed, piece of property. And because of the odd shape of the piece of property, it limits the number of things you can do with it. And so, I have less problem with this piece of property than I do with the massive amount of development that's going out there on that narrow little road. That concerns me, just knowing, being familiar with the road, and as one of them said, coming up over the hill, crossing at Georgia, the whole traffic, knowing how much building is going out there. I do like the idea that Sneed is right there, and it's a lighted intersection at, 2026. So there is a way to get out into population with a lighted intersection. So, yeah, I'm very conflicted, because the developer's done a good job putting this together. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, excellent, thank you so much. Any other discussion from any council members? And if not, is there any motions from any council members?
So, Mr. Mayor, just
Yes.
Procedurally again, is this a 2-motion thing or a 1-motion thing?
So this can be done in one motion, so whether it's for approval or denial, if it is for approval of the requested annexation and the planned unit development, so you would just make that, the motion of, approving the findings of fact conclusions law, the comprehensive plan analysis, and then, going into, whether you are approving it, denying it, and then if it is approving it with the conditions that you would like to have it set forth as part of it, but they can all be done in one motion, either way.
Is it too late to ask another question?
No, always
Okay,
can
I'm
ask a
sorry,
question.
I wanna be clear on this. So, if it's approved the way that it is, and they are locked into some kind of building plan, the way they cannot build it any other way than what they have, no matter how it's zoned.
Yes, that is correct. This particular development is conditioned to be in substantial conformance with the approved site plan that's there. The council has the option to, ask them to reduce a number of units on there if they would like, but the development agreement is going to hold them to what is proposed tonight, what you're looking at, and staff has included the elevations and the design elements, as well as all the amenities and things in those conditions, which will be required to be met by this particular developer, or even if the property is sold to the next developer, unless they so choose to amend that development agreement through a council action.
Okay, so if they sell it and somebody else buys it, they can't knock it all down and then put in something completely different without an approval, based on the zoning, right? Right. Because I agree with you, I agree that property is small enough to where they can't really, the potential of doing something very, very different would be kind of hard. But I am afraid that there's this slippery slope where we're just gonna start rezoning everything without a thought to it, and then we come up with a bigger property and run into bigger issues.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
What I think I'd like to do is do this in 2 motions, do all the general technical stuff in one, and then we can do the order of decision with further discussion if you want. Yeah. So I would make a motion that we approve the comprehensive plan found in 5.1, actually 5, along with findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the conclusions of law, and that's it. And then the recommendation for annexation and the PUD would be in a separate motion. So
Yes.
I would move that those first 3 items be accepted and approved.
Okay, so that'd be a motion to adopt the comprehensive plan analysis, the findings of facts and conclusions of laws written in the staff report, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Second.
Very good, so we have a motion from Council President Allgood, second from Councilor Stodic. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that motion passes.
Okay, so now we basically just have the order of decision.
That is correct.
That hasn't helped my decision making.
You're one step closer, whichever way it's going, so.
Yeah. Anybody else wanna weigh in on this?
You're the El President then.
Thanks. Any thoughts in person?
I appreciate your presence here and have several friends that live on Marble Front and know that they share your concerns. Part of my concern with a 3.5 acre lot is we're not really addressing your concerns on denying this. It's those bigger developments that are gonna create the greater problems. I think limiting the development on a 3.5 acre lot is always gonna be difficult. There's not much you can do with that. And so it almost sounds like we're agreeing on a bigger issue that this 3.5 acre lot truly won't address, if we were to deny it.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head there. There's a big issue here with all these houses.
And I agree with that, because I believe in growth, and I believe in responsible growth, and that, it is, for me, the size of the lot that's helping me lean towards, kind of where I'm thinking, we're not allowed to talk to anyone, right, like have them come up here.
Correct, yeah, public testimony's been closed. So staff, any questions you want, but that's limited to that, be limited to that.
Okay, because the only, if there wasn't some kind of guarantee with the builder's agreement or the development agreement, or they hadn't agreed to do, because they have agreed to do the lights and sidewalks before they build the property.
The road frontage improvements are required at the time of development, so, now, in certain developments that are larger than this 3 acres, they're gonna have to complete the road frontage for this particular project. But other projects in the area will be developed, the road frontage will be developed as each phase of the development touches that section of roadway.
I just think as a council, we have to be very careful if there is a larger build, that we're not just automatically rezone for the sake of the developer and not listening to the concerns of the community about those things. In this case, with the smaller size, and the complaint doesn't seem to be, the project itself so much with it, I mean, it doesn't sound like it narrows it down by too many units, because it's so small. But I'm still very conflicted with that.
Other discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Stodic.
I still think, I guess you have to ask the question, where does this all stop? Does it stop now, or does it stop, with the next one on the list here? And when you look at the amount of money that Valley View School District's in Hawk right now, and the lack of capacity, and I really feel bad that the superintendent or somebody doesn't step up and come to these meetings and say, look, we just can't do this anymore, we don't have the money to do it. But they don't. They always tell the developers that, well, yeah, we're probably against it, but, maybe we'll make room for it. But again, where does it all stop? And again, with developments like this at Manmore Schools, with as deep as values and debt, again, property taxpayers are gonna get stuck with, the developer, he'll get his profit and go home smiling, but the taxpayer gets stuck with the bill. That's just the way it is. So it's a shame. It is that way, but it is, so, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and also the public safety part of it too, we are not staffed, police or fire, to handle what we have right now, so keeping all that in mind in the future.
Other discussions, comments?
Everybody's discussion is absolutely valid. I agree with Councilman Williams that, this little postage stamp is not the overall problem, the growth that we're seeing, such explosive growth as we're seeing. What I'm gonna do, Mr. Mayor, is make a motion.
Go for it.
Based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law, the mayor and city council hereby orders that case number ANN 21-000010 and PUD 21-000004, a request for annexation of 3.56 acres with a designation of R2 medium density for the purpose of a planned unit development for Ryan's Crossing townhouses containing 13 duplex structures, which results in 26 units, on parcel R35280 is approved with the conditions of approval listed in section 12 to be enumerated in a development agreement. Are we good with that, Ms. Ruth? Is that, okay, that's my motion, sir.
Very good. So we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Very good. So we have a motion from Council President Algood and a second from Councilor Williams for approval of the request with the conditions as outlined in the staff report in regards to being included in a development agreement. Is there any discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alden,
Yes.
Jody,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Dottie,
No?
Register.
No.
Okay, so motion passes, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Geyer, but the 4 in favor, and 2 against. Okay, very good, so that motion does pass. So the request has been approved by the city council. And also just to note, and I don't know if we missed this earlier, so we did have one, late item that we'd like to add to the docket CC 1000, which would be the pictures from Mr. Clenenden. So if we get those printed out, Mr. Orton, and we'll include that in the record, SCC 1000. With that, is there a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Very good, so a motion from Councilor Stark and second from Councilor Register to close this public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I lost that for a second. None opposed, so the motion passes, that item is closed. Thank you very much to all those that came, provided testimony, and was here for that item. We appreciate you being here. The next item on the agenda, if I can get to there, is action item, actually it'll be action item number 7, in regards to a bill and ordinance, for this annexation, where it is an annexation coming into the city. So this is action item number 7, consider bill number 58, ordinance number 3377. I believe you all got cheat sheets, from Madam Geyer in regards to motions to this, bill and ordinance. And this is for case number ANN 21-10, with the request to waive the rules, pass on the first reading, and approve the summary for publication. Thanks, ma'am.
Sorry.
So do we have a motion to waive the rules, or to, let's see if I'm reading this right.
Yeah, we got it.
Oh, I need to read it by title only, that's correct. Do I have that? So this is bill number 58, ordinance number 3377, and here's the title. An ordinance determining that certain land lays contiguous to the city limits of the city of Caldwell, county of Canyon, state of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed to the city of Caldwell, Idaho, as part of the R2 medium density residential zone. Declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be a part of the city of Caldwell, Canyon County, Idaho, directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the city of Caldwell, Idaho, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and directing the clerk of the city of Caldwell to file a certified copy of the ordinance and map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, state of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63-215. So with that, we have a motion to waive the rules, or am I doing that right? To waive the rules, pass on the first reading by title only, and approve the summary for publication.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Very good. So we have a motion from Councilor Stoddard and a second from Council President Algood to waive the rules, and pass, on the first reading by title only. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Dottie,
Yes.
Jody,
Yes.
Alden,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Register.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Is there someone who would like to sponsor bill number 58, ordinance number 3377?
Mr. Mayor,
Council President Algood.
I seem to be making friends here, so I'll just carry this. I'll Council Bill number 58, ordinance number 3377, and move for its passage and approve the summary for publication.
Very good, is there a second? Very good, so we have a motion from Council President Allgood and a second from Councilor, Doty to consider bill number 59, ordinance number 3378 on its first reading, and approve the summary for publication. Do we have to do a roll call on that?
Yes.
Okay, Madam Guyer.
Alden,
Yes.
Doty,
Yes.
Dottie,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Register.
Yes.
Very good, very good. So that, approves, or bill number 59, ordinance number 3378. Do we need a motion to close that public hearing? No, okay, I didn't think so. Very good, so then that concludes action item number 9, and moves us on to action item number 10, which is case number ANN 21-15, PUD 21-5, sub 21-42, which is a request by Pontifex Capital to annex Open Door subdivision, last lot 5, block 2, which is approximately 24.5 acres, with an R2 medium density and a C1.
I think we're headed to the wrong,
Oh, we had, thank you for stopping me.
we're on number 8.
I was getting ahead of myself. And that was actually even tabled, we would have been done, maybe you shouldn't have stopped me, you could have got home. Mr. Mason might not have approved that, Mr. Yardo, but the rest of us might have liked it. So yes, thank you very much. So action item number 8, annexation 21-17, sub 2143, to annex approximately 9.5 acres as the zoning of a low-density residential, and concurrently requesting approval of preliminary plat for Liberty Springs subdivision, consisting of 26 single-family residential lots, an average lot size of just under 10,000 square feet. Property located at 2902 Lincoln Street. Hearing examiner heard this case on January 11th, 2022, and forwarded with a recommendation for approval. I hope that's the right one. Does that sound right?
It is.
Looks like the picture. Okay, so turn time over to you, Mr., for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Deb Root, Senior Planner, 621 Cleveland Boulevard. We're here before you to, consider a case for Liberty Springs preliminary plat and the annexation of 9.48 acres. The subject property is designated low-density residential on the comprehensive plan. The applicant is requesting annexation with a zoning designation of low-density residential, or R1. Currently, they're requesting a preliminary plat that contains 26 residential lots. The average lot size is 9,996 square feet, which is above the required lot size of 8,000 square feet for the R1 zone. They meet the required minimum common qualifying open space for an R1 development at 6% or greater of that overspace. On this preliminary plat, there is an overhead power line that crosses across several of the lots there. That power line is proposed to be removed, and those services will be delivered to the existing residential unit, underground when the rest of the services are located, and that easement for that power line will be vacated at that time. The development does connect to the adjacent development, Marble Heights subdivision to the south at Marmosa Street, which is a sub-road that's been placed in there. And then it takes access also to Lincoln Road. As with many of these developments, there are concerns regarding traffic and schools. This particular property is in the Caldwell School District. We did not receive information or opposition or even any requests from Caldwell School District regarding this application. They are sent, though, every application that we receive, so they are aware of the development and the proposed population increase with this development. The development is in substantial conformance with the comprehensive plan and the plating requirements, and I will stand for questions.
Very good. Thank you very much, Ms. Root. Any questions from council for staff for Ms. Root?
Just, would you give me the nearest developed cross street so I can see where we're at?
Oh, my gosh. So aviation, but it doesn't go through to Lincoln is the problem, so. There you go, right there, Bruce. Yeah, right there, that's the
So
property.
it's, okay, so it's west of Van Buren School then?
Yes, yes it is. And actually, Mosaic is on Linden, or on Lincoln,
Okay,
right
Van
there.
Buren is there.
Yep, and Van Buren is on Marble Front.
And can you go back to that, please, here in a minute, Brent? Across the street where the dirt is that planned yet? Is there something there yet?
You will be seeing an application come before you.
Okay.
Mention that.
Yes, mention that.
What's to the east of there? Oh, to the east of that?
To the east of that is an approved preliminary plat for El Monterey subdivision, which is a planned unit development as well. There's multifamily in that. There's multifamily units, there's single-family townhomes, and single-family residential units in that development.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Root? Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it. Okay, so we have two people signed up in support of this application. We'll start with Mr. Mason. Oh, you want to start with Mr. Jorgensen? Okay, very good. We'll always have to have the last word, so. If you'll come forward and please state your name and address for the record, and then you'll be given 5 minutes for your testimony.
I'm pulling mine up. Thank you. I'm, Mr. Mayor, members of council, my name is Dave Jorgensen. My address is 14254 West Battenberg Drive, Boise. I'm here part of the development team for Liberty Springs. The applicant, he is watching online, but he is not able to be here today. As noted, Will Mason is our engineer. He was part of our development team as well. And if there's any real technical questions that I cannot answer, he's here for answering those questions today. We want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. I go through a quick slide presentation to help orient not only location, but touch a few of the different items. So, as you can see on the slides here, my presentation will cover the introduction of the site, application details, and the subdivision summary, and a staff report and conditions of approval. As was mentioned, this site is approximately 9.5 acres in size. It's in the Caldwell City area of impact. It is contiguous to city limits on the west, on the south, and on the east. The east, as was mentioned by staff at Ruth there, that actually a PUD with quite a bit more density than we're proposing here tonight. We are shooting for a straight subdivision, not a PUD, planning and development. But this is, for the area's comprehensive plan, is low-density residential for the area. And as I mentioned, the application is for annexation zoning and preliminary plat. We comply with the city's comprehensive plan and future land use map for the area. Requesting an R1 residential zone is allowed in the low-density residential area. We're requesting 2.74 dwelling units per acre, which is less dense than what's allowed in the 3 units per acre, and we're not, again, doing a PUD to maximize it. Also, we actually listened to the neighbors. We had a neighbor meeting, listened to some of their feedback. We try to be something more consistent, compatible to those existing residents, especially those in the south. Let me go back. There was reference to, and I can't speak to the application, but there is an application that's pending to the north, so we'll be surrounded by development if that were to be approved as well. A little more specifics to the summary of our application. It's a total of 26 residential units. We're keeping the 1 residential home in the southwest corner, so it's really plus 25 units in total for the site. Single-family detached homes, all built in 1 phase. And really, we thought a lot about this design. There's several aspects, as staff had mentioned. There's a very large power lines across the street on the north side of Lincoln Road. And so in working with staff, they told us to do some offsetting of Lincoln Road to avoid and have conflict to the north with that future, any future development of Lincoln Road, specific to the north. And so we're actually giving up more right-of-way than our fair share on the south side to help offset that road for, Public Works and staff's direction to us. Likewise, we're tying into the road to the south. Connectivity is a big part of orientation. There's no stub street to the east. We can't tie into that, and again, it's east to west. And so, we did not want to have just a straight shot road from Lincoln coming into the development. High speed is always a concern. We designed a circuitous route, which would then be a little bit slower traffic coming to the neighbors north and south through the development. So we think that's a form of traffic calming. There will be quality development and quality amenities within this development. There's not only a children's play area, a little tot lot, but also a pathway that kind of connects within the development. So when you think about it, it's actually going to serve as a loop road for a walking path within this little community, which we think is a nice little plus. So this open space definitely is active and useful. Some ask, well, what kind of homes are you going to build? And so the honest answer is we don't know yet. We're working with some different builders. We've talked to at least 3 different ones. And each of these builders we've talked to, the images we're showing here are different homes they have actually built in the community. And so we've taken their renderings. We see a mixture of homes. There's single-family detached homes with a variety of architecture and style, quality homes, nice amenities. 3-car, 2-car garage, single-story, 2-story, we see a mix in the community. So a little bit of staff report, how we got here. We submitted back in the fall or sometime late summer last year. The hearing was scheduled December 14th. We pulled it off the agenda because we want to work with staff to correct a few things, which we did. We met with the hearing examiner who did recommend approval of the hearing back in January 11th. There was one item for clarification discussion, and that was resolved and clarified, and that was the frontage of Lincoln Road, to make sure we're meeting the conditions of the irrigation districts. There's 2 we're working with as they join within the site, coming from the east and the west, and also the buffering along the frontage. So with that, we're excited to bring this development to Caldwell. It'll be a quality development. We'll try to listen to the neighbors and do something which is compatible to and nice in the area. It's contiguous to city limits on 3 sides, and we comply with the comp plan and all the staff's conditions. So with that, we're not asking for any changes. We agree with all the staff report and the staff condition approval, and we request your approval tonight. We'll stand for any questions.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Jorgensen. Any questions from the council? All right, excellent job.
I don't know, but thank you for
I do have a question, sorry.
Oh, sure.
How many phases are in this?
Mr. Mayor and Councilmember, register will be 1 phase, built 1 phase. And I think it has to for the connectivity and emergency services. There's sewer and water reasons as well, so it'll be 1 phase.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Okay, very good. Mr. Mason, you want to come forward? It's up to you. You don't have to if you don't want to. We won't force you, but. Name and address for the record, please.
William Mason with Mason and Associates. Our address is 924 3rd Street South in Nampa. What can I say? Staff and Mr. Jorgensen have said pretty much everything that needs to be said for the annexation of the zone. I'm here for any technical questions you might have. For example, the hearing examiner had a question about the power poles to the north. They're the transmission line power poles. The big steel-based power poles, so that's why the engineering staff have asked us to offset that road. There's other questions, let me know, I'll try to answer.
Any technical questions for Mr. Mason? Okay, very good, thank you so much. So that is actually everybody that has signed up for this application, for this request. So unless there's anybody in the audience that wants to testify, it does not appear to be so. So with that, is there a motion to close the public testimony portion of this hearing? And a second? Second. Very good. So we have a motion from Councilor Stonick and a second from Council President Allgood to close the public testimony portion of this hearing. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Very good. So then that would move us into discussion as a council for your thoughts in regards to this application. And as always, staff is still available for questions. So if you have any questions for them, they're ready to answer those in a moment. With that, turn it over to you for your discussion.
I know, I was waiting for him to ask how much they were gonna tell us.
I just want to remind everybody that the Caldwell School District combined with Nwacp is only in the hawk for 41 million, so a lot different than the 133 million.
I do have a question that probably everybody knows the answer but me, but who pays to relocate the sign?
the developer has to say to, move those power lines.
Thank you.
Any other questions or any discussions on that matter or a motion?
I even know where to find what to say for the motion.
Maybe okay.
You know, this one doesn't tell you what to say, it's just, you know, but this is how it goes. I'm gonna muddle my way through this. Good, actually, why don't you say it and I'll say so moved. There we go. You want me to say all that?
If you want to, and then, yeah, and then let Claire say what you want.
Just from 11.1?
Yep.
All right, I'll make a motion based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law, the mayor and city council order that case number ANN 21-000017, SUB 21-000043, request to annex parcel R35228 containing 9.48 acres, more or less, with an R1 low-density residential zoning designation and for the approval of a preliminary plat for Liberty Springs subdivision consisting of 26 residential lots for the property R35228 at 2902 Lincoln Road in Caldwell, Idaho, be approved with the conditions of approval to be enumerated in a development agreement. Very good. Am I supposed to say that when it's highlighted and print?
Nope, you're good. So we have a motion from Counselor, Doty for approval of the request. Do we have any discussion or a second for the motion?
Just quick discussion, do we need to include the technical things, findings of fact, evidence, approved evidence, that kind of thing?
So I think you did on the beginning, so we talked about based on the findings of fact, conclusions of law, so that should.
Everything's included in that?
Yep.
Okay. Right.
So any discussion on the motion or a second to the motion?
My first one of these, and I'm not gonna second.
Patience, all right. So, very good. So we have a motion for approval from Counselor Doty with a second from Counselor Stonick. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Doty,
Yes.
Register,
Yes.
Albright,
Yes.
Dottie,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes. Okay, so motion passes, and we still got McGee there, or Councilman McGee, so hasn't fallen asleep on us yet, so that's good. Very good. So motion passes, the item has been approved. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Counselor Stodick, a second from Counselor Register to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. So that now moves us, this is another annexation, so we do need to do, another bill and ordinance, so that moves to action item number 9. Consider bill number 59, ordinance number 3378, and I will read that by title only. An ordinance determining that certain land lays contiguous to the city limits of the city of Caldwell, county of Canyon, state of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed to the city of Caldwell, Idaho, as part of the R1 low-density residential zone. Declaring said land by proper legal description as described below to be a part of the city of Caldwell, Canyon County, Idaho, directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the city of Caldwell, Idaho, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and directing the clerk of the city of Caldwell to file a certified copy of the ordinance and map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, state of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code section 63-215. So with that, do we have a motion to waive the 3 reading process and approve the bill and ordinance by title only on its first reading?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Allgood.
I move that we consider bill number 59, ordinance number 3378 on its first reading by title only.
Second.
Very good. So we have a motion from Councilman Allgood and a second from Councilor Stodick, for approval. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Albright,
Yes.
Register,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Doty,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Dottie.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Allgood.
I'll sponsor bill number 59, ordinance number 3378, and move first passage and approve the summary for publication.
Is there a second?
Second.
Very good, so a motion from Counselor Allgood and a second from Counselor Stodic to, consider bill number 59, ordinance number 3378 on its first reading, and approve the summary for publication. Madam Guyer, please call the roll.
Allgood,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Doty,
Yes.
Dottie,
Yes.
Register.
Yes.
Very good, motion passes. That moves us on to action item number 10, and before I read all this, have a good night, good to see you.
Thank you.
There is a request to this item be continued to the next regularly scheduled city council meeting to be held on March 7th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Do we have a motion to continue this item to that date and time?
So moved.
Very good, so I think we have a motion and a second right there, so motion by Councilor Register and a second by Councilor Stodic to move action item number 10, or to continue action item number 10 to the next city council meeting on March 7th at 7 p.m. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So we'll need to do the same thing on number 11. I should have done the same motion, apologize for that. But is there a motion to continue action item number 11 also, to the next city council meeting on March 7th at 7 p.m.
Second.
Very good. So that's a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stodic, to continue action item number 11 to the next city council meeting on March 7th at 7 p.m. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That moves us to action item number 12, consider acceptance of the finance report. And I see Mr. Stock has his paper ready, so I'm guessing you're the one that's gonna do it.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
the finance committee has reviewed the current accounts payable in amount of $2,356,779.29 for the period ending February 16, 2022. A net payroll of $431,025.87 for pay period ending January 29, 2022. I move that accounts payable in amount of $2,356,779.29, represented by checks number 159802 through 160183, and payroll for the amount of $431,025.87, represented by check numbers 37040 through 37057, and direct deposits be accepted, payments approved, and vouchers filed in the office of the city clerk.
Very good. Do we have a second? Second. Very good. So we have a motion to accept the finance report as presented, and a second from Councilor Doty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That moves us on to item number 13, council reports. Let's go backwards tonight. So Councilman McGee, let's start with you. Any report tonight?
Not tonight, Mayor.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. We hope you're feeling better soon, so you can join us again.
Thank you.
Very good. Councilor Allgood.
I just kind of wanted to just talk briefly about all these subdivisions, because, you know, last council meeting, we had subdivisions, and I foresee us continuing to be in the future. And when House Bill 389 hit last year, and it cut our revenue, we put a brief moratorium on building until we could figure out how we paid for this stuff. And that moratorium didn't last a long time. We got a lot of grief over it. We were unsuccessful in reaching a good resolution. And so I really don't have an answer, but I share everybody's concerns. I mean, this valley is exploding, and every piece of ground that is not having something on it is putting something on it. I don't know how to address it, other than, you know, it's either if they meet the criteria, which everybody has met the rule, say yes, or just say I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I really think it's something that we're gonna struggle with every time we meet.
Eventually more housing reduces your taxes, supposedly, right? Supposedly. And, yeah, so it's a double edged, but then you have the same issue that Chuck brings up, so.
Exactly. You know,
Housing, but yeah.
I was here when you couldn't beg somebody to build a house here, you know, and Chuck, you remember those, and Diana, you probably remember those days. Not that you're near as old as the rest of us, but anyway, you know, and so now we're facing this opposite side, and it is a dilemma, because everybody, I mean, I am not going to be on that family's Christmas list, I'm sure, but that that development is a well-planned development, and it's a transitional development, which I think is kind of important. Again, if you drive to Nampa and Meridian, you see tons and tons of 4- and 5-story apartment buildings housing, you know, several hundred people. And I'm not a fan of that kind of thing. I'm more of a fan of a duplex or something like that, more than a big high-rise apartment building. Man, that's just me. But, I don't know, it's some, for the huge amount of money we make to do this, I don't know that it's, you know, it's a tough position to be in, it really is. And I am certainly, you know, whether you vote the same way as I do or not, I agree with everybody in the statements that are made. I really understand where everybody's coming from.
Very good, thank you so much. And maybe just a quick comment on that too, and anybody on the council or staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we do see all these applications, we've seen less of people asking for more. It seems like, I know, like the second one was a great example, where they stuck with the thing, and Debbie, I think, agrees and disagrees, because she sees both, but it seemed to be every time an application wanted to go more dense, to change the, you know, the comp plan map amendment, and so I think we're starting to see some of that, which I think is good. Maybe people are realizing this is what it shows, let's stick with this. I know we still want to do a comp plan map update, but I think we're seeing more of that and less of, I want this to go from low density to medium density, let's throw this on there, so yeah. Councilor Williams?
I don't have anything to add tonight, just appreciate the privilege of leading through everyone.
I'll just not even say, well, I quit, that's.
Yeah. I don't think we'd accept it. He's stuck, so he's stuck at least for the next couple of years, whether he likes it or not, so very good. Councilor Cody?
I had a great golf board meeting and then expired the next day.
You're very well with that one.
Could be just spread the wealth.
There you go, week at a time.
Yeah, it was a good meeting out there, and they have a lot of potential out of our golf courses. So,
very good. Councilor Stada?
Mr. Mayor, just to dovetail off of what, Councilman August said, you know, I'm not against development either, but I think that, and I believed in that moratorium. I think it's one of the best things the city council did, and I remember the days too, as Councilman August did, when we had to beg somebody to develop something here, but I just think we need to really, you know, keep the fourplexes and the apartments in one certain area and not interfere with single family dwellings is where I have a problem, and that's just my end of it. The other item, I had a good, Veteran Hall meeting too, and I'm just wondering, did, Mr. Harrell ever contact you about the, expansion of the access to the elevator there at the hall on the, west side?
So far, no.
Okay.
So far, no. It's not to say he may have tried. We're bouncing between meetings quite a bit. So
Sure.
there's a reasonable possibility that he stopped by and
Okay.
knocked out there.
Okay. He'll bring something to your attention there that we probably need to do because we own the building, and the access to that elevator for the disabled folks is just not adequate enough, so.
I'm presuming from the ground level?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So, okay, I'll double check with him then. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilor Register?
Yeah, so I didn't have any committee meetings, but I did get to meet with Ms. Root, because I'm trying to learn more and more about how all these things work. And one thing I was super impressed about is she's really kind of holding these developers' feet to the fire as far as, making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing for code and what they're supposed to be doing for the city. And so I too, just wanted to say, I'm not against development either, but I feel like we're going down a slippery slope if we are going to continually change zones or do anything like that, where I see when the developers come in and they're giving their Boise addresses or their Eagle addresses, and then we have Caldwell citizens that are sitting here and asking us not to do that, that we need to be paying attention to them as well. So that's just kind of where I sit with that, and that's it.
Very good. Thank you so much for those comments. Appreciate those. So just real quick on here, and I'll talk about the city council liaison assignment, as was mentioned from Counselor Doty, you lasted a week, not too bad. But we have those assignments made, we appreciate, Counselor Stoddick making that recommendation, for Counselor Williams to shift over, so we got your one reading in tonight, so that was good for that, but he's graciously accepted that, has a great experience in that, so excited for him to be a part of finance and the audit committee. One thing that I wanted to mention, and we talked a little bit tonight, I know Counselor Doty, and somebody had mentioned it before, to see if the city council has a desire, for cell phones. So I know that we've, as a staff, as citywide, have talked to, it's been kind of standard practice to pay a portion of, an employee's if they needed a cell phone, they'd pay a portion of their cell phone bill for them. We're going away from that and having them have their own, city cell phone, just so they don't have the two getting intermingled. It's dedicated for that. And so the thought has been the potential of city council members having basically a city-issued cell phone. So you would have that to be able to utilize, what's that? You get to carry three phones until you retire, then you can only carry one phone too. There is, some cost to that, obviously, but, we had actually started a new FirstNet. We're partnering with them, which should help reduce the overall cost we've had as a city. We've had different departments using different, carriers and things like that, so we're coming all together as one, which obviously gives us some savings regards to the number of users for that one use. The cell phones, you have a choice between an Android or an iPhone. Usually it's one of the most recent ones out, and it's 99 cents. And if you break it, it's 99 cents to replace it. And so, but that would be, if you don't want a cell phone.
I don't want three, Mr. Mayor, but I don't want to carry the three.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have, I don't think we'd force you to, it would just be an option if you wanted to have that, to keep those things separate.
I think it's a great idea if people, so that if they do want to request records,
Mm-hmm.
you agree they do?
Yep, no, and I agree, and that's why I don't carry three, but I do carry two for that exact reason.
So everybody will have separate numbers.
Yep, correct. So you would have your own cell phone. I believe and I'll check with Carol tomorrow, but there should be money in the city council budget to cover those costs for the remainder of this year, and then we would just add a line item in the budget for next year for that.
Speaking of cell phones, it is kind of intertwined. I had texted you over the weekend because I had heard, there was something going on over at West Valley. And there were 300, 400 comments on Facebook that there was an officer down, which it turned out not to be, thank God. But in a situation like that, would you notify council if there had been an incident like that involving officers or a city employee was injured?
Yeah, we definitely can. So we would always, send out an email, definitely the next day, but if you want to be notified, so, Chief Wyant, the new fire chief, they know that, in certain instances, to notify me, things like that, regardless of what time it is. So if there's, and everybody may be a little different, and that's understandable. So if you want to be notified, if an officer shot, we'll probably notify you no matter what. Because, those things are very significant, very serious, and we want the council to be aware of that, immediately, regardless of what time of day it is. I think all of you would want to know that.
I don't want to put any extra burden, but I definitely agree with Diana, I would want to know.
Well, I think that the part of what I believe in with the city council is being more involved with the city and especially the employees. So for me personally, if there was a issue with an employee, and whatever it is, like whatever level that rises to, I would want to be notified immediately.
So, and then that's the question, I guess, is to what level, because let's say if there's a major fire, and there's no injuries, there's no whatever, usually I'll get called if it's 2 a.m, whatever it is. So, are you saying you want all of those, or just the ones where it involves, either an officer deployed, a taser, or fires were shot, or somebody was injured?
I would think like officer involved shooting and probably above, like for police wise, I don't even know, every time they change those off. But when it comes to really any employee, if they were put in the hospital or something to that effect, I think we should be aware of it. I think that's part of it, but I'm gonna back it.
Okay, well, we'll do that on that, and then if there's things like, I'd rather you find out later, well, why didn't you notify me? And we'll kind of work with it, but we'll plan on definitely any of those, very serious things are happening, especially to the police officers or firefighters. If there's a serious injury in a fire, we'll plan on notifying all the city council. And if we're doing too much, let us know. If we're not doing enough, let us know on that. So, yeah, you're more than welcome. I'm sure there's plenty to have.
It's important to keep in mind, it's not just police and fire, I think,
Yeah.
which is getting out.
Yeah.
Some of our employees are significantly hurt or something.
Yeah, and that's one where I won't probably get notified immediately, because we're not gonna know about it till the next day, but then, yes, we can definitely send out an email or a text when we're notified, in that regard, so. Yes, Mr. Orton?
Real quick, back on the cell phone thing, one thing that is possible to forward, because I can understand not wanting to carry 3 phones.
I'm working with you carrying 3s. Go ahead.
It is possible to forward calls from one to the other, and I think that would, the advantage would be, I think it would still preserve the confidentiality. Basically, your personal phone that you're forwarding it to is acting like it's a dummy as far as what's coming in, it's forwarding that call onto your phone. So that might save you having to carry 3 phones. And then there is the one disadvantage to that, which is an advantage for the FirstNet, is they reserve, that's a government required thing, and Brad, I know you already know all that because you use it for state police probably. But it reserves bandwidth for, basically first responders and others, so if you go to McCall and the cell phone towers are jammed, so you can't get any data, and you can hardly make a call during the day, but you can in the early morning because there's fewer people using it. That problem goes away with FirstNet setup, so there's that advantage that you gain with actually using that device.
You get that as well as another service where it sparks everybody off the line, so it's kind of nice.
And I also think that, like, in your chief position or whatever it is you do over there, that you probably have to carry it, because if you have to be notified of something, I mean, with city council, it's possible you only have to check it, a couple of times a day. It's not like you're on call. You're just using it for your.
I like the idea of having carry 3. In fact, I'm thinking, you're on with Renewal Agency Commission.
You just put them all in your.
What if I'm out golfing, I needed another one? Well, you're not on that. I know. I think you got a point there, Mark, maybe we should have city issued fanny packs.
Or the belt, right?
Yeah, you're halfway to being an engineer with all that stuff on your belt.
While we're on the subject,
Yes.
just out of and we don't have to decide this tonight, I'm just curious. Will city council, you talked once before about maybe finding a space for city council wherever city hall is or going to be, so that we have a place to kind of work out of. Is that still something you're thinking about?
Yes, definitely. So we have begun initial discussions on some of that. And so, yes, when we're able to do that, I would definitely be on there to have an area for where you could go in, have a little cubicle for your computer, things like that, and go in and work in the area with people.
Have some quiet space. And then, with that, is city council going to have access to city buildings? Like police department, fire department, city hall, or no?
So, yes and no, actually, police department's a little unique on that, and who they are gonna, would come in with the swipe of the badge. They wanna be able to, obviously secure it for obvious reasons in that regard. But I know we were talking about, like, for city hall, getting, little key fobs, because yes, I believe that you should have access into that.
But I can't always get there before 5.
Yeah. So we'll have to,
Be advised, it's alarmed, if you get there
Yep.
after 5, you'll make some noise.
yeah, so you'll each have to be issued, so it'll take a little process. We can do that, because you'll each be issued a security code on that, and make sure that you have it, because if not, poor this guy is here, the one that gets the phone call at 10 at night or 1 in the morning, because the alarm wasn't set or went off and didn't get turned off. So just, if you do get that,
I wanna check my mailbox at 7 PM, so.
just make sure you have that and be able to do that. So, but yeah, we talked
I
to
keep
Bill about
getting
that.
notes that if I don't go check my mailbox, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, yes, I used to get those too, quite often, so. Yeah, so, yeah, we'll be working on that for sure.
They're shutting off the lights, I think they're doing it.
Okay, that's all right. Yes, the motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good, motion passes. We are adjourned.
Maybe what can we do to help you? Say that again? Yes, yeah, just turn it all off.